here's something we hope you'll really like.
It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
We're traveling through a dimension both of sound and ideas. We're at a place where the mind can comprehend and devise a wireless transmitter. Measure time and light. Astonishing? Perhaps. But you can find it in a place that's known as...
Planet Green Trees.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Welcome, everybody. Listen to Planet Green Trees, Planet Green Trees TV. I'm your host, Michael Komorn. I want to say hello to all the people that may be watching, or to encourage listeners to tune in on Facebook, which we're doing live. Is that right, Tommy? It's live working? Okay. But you're officially listening to episode number 446. As I said, I'm your host, Michael Komorn, and we're about to embark in a couple hours of discussion, debate, some policy issues in Michigan, maybe some medical cannabis and cannabis reform. I've recently added to the agenda the debate about Paul McCartney and Wings as a musical entity. And we'll talk about more of that. We've got a bunch of topics to go over. But before I do that, let me introduce the community entertainment. A lot of big expectations out of everybody tonight to be entertaining and funny, most importantly. We'll start with the blue corner wearing white trunks, Tommy Two-Tone.
Hey guys, great to be here. Looking forward to the show.
Tommy's in charge of the Facebook Live, and Jim Powers, by the way, is here. Jim, what's going on? How you doing?
Good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. Glad to be here after the holiday break. Hope Bill Schuette had a wonderful holiday.
I thought we did that already.
We did.
Okay.
But, you know.
We're back to that?
No, he can go fuck himself.
Okay.
Welcome back.
There we go.
Welcome back.
Jim, very corporate of you. We can expand on that in a little while, but we are live on Facebook. Jim, you're watching all the comments, and people have questions. You're going to digest them, not necessarily like just ask them blatantly, but if you think that they're, I'm kidding, you will let us know if questions are being asked and conversations are.
I will.
Okay.
And I'll message them over to you.
Okay, that may be too much. I'm trying to. All right, moving along. The anti-Paul McCartney and Wings advocator. There's no
Yes.
question. She likes the Stones. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that.
Also,
Okay.
Jamie, I can't stand Bruce Springsteen either. Are you going to jump up and start screaming about that, too? I don't like him either.
Me, no.
We'll do another thing about that, but we are going to
Yeah.
talk about Paul
That's
McCartney.
another
I might
night.
be- I may
That'll
on
be
your-
another
I have a
night.
lot of respect for him, but I may be on your side as far as wanting to
Yeah.
go out of my way to listen.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm still, like, tearing out my
Here's-
eardrums.
One of the things that I will argue later is I promise you that Prince liked Paul McCartney. I get nothing
Yeah,
else to
but
say.
see,
Okay,
I don't
got
have to.
nothing-
I don't have to like everything that Prince like. I
I'm
can
saying.
tell you, I don't like Paul McCartney. Nothing you say would change
We're
that.
not
I
doing-
don't care if
we're not
Prince
doing it right
gave
now. We'll
birth
come back
to
it.
Paul
We'll come back to
McCartney.
it. We'll come back.
It might be.
How
on
are you,
now.
by the way? How are you?
I'm really good.
Have you been on a lot of radio shows since?
Just one other besides. Well, actually, two other besides.
Because this is a night amongst radio shows of all radio shows, because we've got.
Well, this is the best.
We've got the.
But what
grouping-
would be better than this?
We've got a
I mean, tell
grouping
me.
of. In
I
fact,
mean, this is the best.
This is the best. Well,
radio show.
what would be better than this, Michael?
But now it's not a radio show, it's a
We're saying
television
this in front of the
program.
president.
It's a
other radio
community of.
podcasting.
Be best.
There's a
The
bias obviously
best.
being played on it, but I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
Jamie's.
There's no question about
All right.
that.
Okay, good.
Jamie's just
mean,
trying to
I was-
follow in your footsteps.
Will you still say that after we debate Paul McCartney in more detail? Just kidding.
No
All right.
hard feelings. I mean,
know,
you know.
We could have a Prince fest of how we love Prince afterwards. How's that?
I'd love to have a
I
Prince
know.
Fest.
Okay.
Let's go.
Amanda Jocelyn is here. Amanda, thanks for being here. You may need to jump in on some of this, so get ready.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year.
Glad to have you back. And we're excited to have, as I was mentioning, our special guest in the studio here. We're not sure who it was that put it together. No one seems to want to take credit for it.
It was
or
not Jamie.
Accountability. It's not
Definitely
Jamie. It's not
wasn't
Amanda.
Jamie.
It was the
You guys just-
universe.
Amanda.
It was Amanda.
I like the fact that you guys just appeared.
Hey, I just showed
You
up.
appeared and you were on the list. Exactly.
I
It's so
smelled the
organic.
weed smoke.
It makes
Showed
sense.
up with
It makes
keychains.
sense.
They
Version
were
of
here.
The show,
It's
the
like
original version of the show was on Planet. We did this similar thing. It was a call-in. It was a different configuration. Jeff was still there at the time, but this is the second time that the show has been on. Last time was a basement broadcast. So,
You've been on before. You're saying.
well, what was the
I
original host's name?
wasn't.
Johnny Reinhardt.
Reinhardt, who was a musician and a cannabis enthusiast, and got the show up and running. Got Jeff in, and then Jeff stayed, and eventually teamed up with Roech over here. And now that show's been running like that for a while. It's a great show. I didn't give them enough credit when they were on Jazz Cabbage. I'm going to correct that a little bit tonight.
Wow.
Okay, you want to redo on that?
What's
But, all
going to happen?
Have they been on Planet Green Trees before, either of you guys?
No.
Okay.
John was. That's my point. Is
I see,
representing the
okay.
show.
And I just like to say the show was alive and well way before Johnny. It's been going on since the beginning of legislation. So
Started the show.
we're proud to hold it down now.
Well, we want to hear about it. First of all, we got Jeff and Roech from Medical Mondays. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here. We want to talk, and thanks for being here.
What's up?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us.
And I have to just get through the introduction because we have Jamie Lowell, and no one thinks a prima donna if he's not given full credit for.
The illustrious Jamie Lowell.
Yes.
Jamie Lowell is responsible for all things.
Everything.
Not just cannabis related, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
We're delighted
Everything
to have
can
him
be
and honored to
extrapolated
have
back
him
to me.
participating here in his purple hat. Please welcome Jamie Lowell.
All right.
Hello.
See?
So,
keep it
Jamie's
cheap.
not to throw a
purple.
wrench in topics for tonight,
But
We
you're
have a
going to
heart-wrenching
anyway.
guys here,
topic.
it's just kind of obvious to me that tonight would be good to look over some 2020 forecasting. Rick Thompson wrote a really excellent article on things developing in 2020 and what might play out in hemp and CBD and supply chain issues and some of the way the state's dealing with some of these issues now and what's growing. That might be a good time for some of that. That's all. That's all.
Here you go. I tell you what, because we already have pre-listed topics 1, 2, 3, 4, which I'm going to
Pre-list.
tease in a second, and then maybe do a rant. Let's
I think
print.
those
Let's
are there in
print that
case
article.
somebody doesn't come up with the perfect topic for
Let's
the night.
print that article.
Rick's article?
Yeah, pull it up somewhere if we can.
Yeah. Okay.
And
We'll pull it up.
we can
Let
discuss it
Jim
because
pull
I
it
do
up.
Sounds
think
safer right
that
We'll pull it up.
because there's really no accountability for just making predictions, we should all just predict away. We have a little go at it like that. And we can debate that because that also is something that has not a lot of.
Let's
All right.
debate.
I've got predictions
All right.
for sure.
Do you know what the time? All right. So listen. So you guys, let's talk about you guys for a second. So
There's
you've
the
been.
dick in
You guys are.
prediction.
What's that? wait. Where's Carruthers? What is going on, Carruthers? What is going on?
I mentioned
Where-
Earl's over here when you were introducing me.
No, I did not. I mean, seriously.
Wow.
It's funny.
Wow, Michael. Wow.
Earl Carruthers.
the way,
Step forward.
By the way, Earl's here.
Yeah.
Earl
the black
Carruthers is
beanie.
here. Come here.
Tommy went to all that trouble to add you, Earl. He did. It was a big deal.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Earl, as you know, we've been putting together a Kicking It with Komorn, and we're working on our next episode, and Earl was here doing some educational materials for the podcast that he is also involved with. What's it called?
Cannabis Therapy Podcast,
There you go.
where you can get a well-balanced understanding about cannabis and cannabis products. And I must say, I love this show. I've been always intimidated on being on this show because I feel like everybody's smarter than me. But now, Michael,
We know I've shown it's not
Oh, shit.
It's good.
Shots fired.
And that's good. Thanks for being here. Very kind of you. So back to the Medical Monday, guys. So why Monday of all days? What's the story? So you guys have had a radio show going on for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's been
you guys are not the originals, but you're saying you both.
Monday.
You are now the existing.
Yes.
And how long has that been going on for with you two?
Past 4 years.
Past 4 years.
And we were, I mean, just recently we went over to YouTube. What was it, February?
Yeah.
Maybe before that.
Like, I mean, we had done stuff on YouTube, like trying out different technologies, but we really didn't find anything that really worked until
I mean,
February.
we were using like a 360 camera at one
So
point.
you're recording it live and then posting it live. As a-
Yeah.
And
Okay.
We
also
stream live, yeah.
broadcasted it on tapdetroit.com.
Excellent. And that's been going on for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And before that,
in
it was
this in this
up on
configuration,
Tape
but the show's a long-running show. I think it's second only to this show as far as
Right, that's what I'm saying.
longevity.
So, and you guys either were involved, one of you was involved with it before, or kind of picked up and.
I fell into it. Johnny, who was the host at the time that, I got involved with, like, he ended up getting put into a Facebook group that I had, and it's called Berg Stoner Corner. And, I would post random videos and stuff, and he invited me on. And then I was on there once, and then he invited me back, and you know, it just evolved into I was his co-host, and then he ended up leaving, and me and Roech stepped
Excellent.
up.
All right, so let me ask a couple questions. So just for my own reality, you guys go every Monday, is that right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Rain or shine, no matter what?
Pretty much.
Oh man, what was it? It was like we went to Lansing, and it was like a fucking snowstorm. and we
Yeah,
still
we're better than
went,
the mail
and
service.
We didn't get. We usually go live at 10. We didn't even go live until like a quarter after 11. But
We just
we
said so. But
but we still
10 a.m.
did
in the
it.
morning.
Still did it, though.
10 a.m. in the morning.
No,
PM.
10 at night.
10 at night. And
10
you go for a
p.m. to
couple-
midnight.
Couple hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So between shows, how often do you guys talk about the subject matter or guests?
Well, me and Berg have known each other since like 5th grade. So we talk about everything. And that's pretty much what the feel of the show is. We just talk to each other. You know, we don't have like a...
No agenda, no set topics?
Not really. You know, it's pretty broad.
I would say I want to like use this opportunity to correct some of the stuff that I was saying about you
All
guys
right, cool.
before. What has happened? You guys have gotten into a groove where you showcase or present products and then try them out and honestly describe your assessment. You know,
Yeah.
of them, and you got into a nice little niche doing that, and I thought that was kind of cool enough. But you know, we came onto your show after you were on ours, and we experienced that a little bit more. And you guys are taking on a lot of the same topics that we're talking about here, and it's kind of like a wide-ranging show, and it's just
No,
really
like we were looking over,
Thanks.
you know, what we're going to talk about on the show, and it's like we already discussed.
Yeah,
it
we
on
talked
our
about
show.
that stuff on our show.
been there, done that.
Well, yeah, no, like, first and foremost, we try to be like a voice of the people. You know, with cannabis, so much of it is just happening, you know, whereas like the little guy, the average person, you know, might not have hundreds of dollars to invest in trying out people's products or have the time to go to these events and meet the vendors face to face. So we try to provide a like middle ground for producers, cultivators, and the public to meet each other and join. We have call-ins, so if there's somebody that's, you know, you have a question about their product or you have an issue with their product, our show is the place to do it.
Nice. Yeah, and you get the idea of where the standards are, and people can kind of
Yeah.
gauge their
yeah.
products against that kind of
No,
stuff.
there's definitely been like cannabis producers or growers or extractors that came on the show and got butthurt because we told them they had garbage.
Yeah, you might hear that we're kind of a negative show,
Then you
but
ask them to
that's from
advertise.
people that
No, I mean,
came up there with some BS
Yeah.
and got told the truth
Part
about
of the thing
themselves.
is you will be sampling in or interacting with the cannabis.
Did you have to
and
escort someone out?
actually-
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
'Cause you know,
Okay, we never had to do anything like that. We just
Roach-
don't
Yeah.
ask them to
Roach-
come back.
Roach-
We had to
that
like
escort
have an
somebody.
attorney issue a letter and all kinds of stuff.
Oh
It's
my God.
it's not been an easy road, but we're here.
Wow.
We enjoy it. We love it.
Well, if that happens again, I happen to know
mean,
of an attorney that could like issue letters and help you out on a situation like
I
that.
mean, the
We'll write 'em
haters
another
just make
letter.
us go harder.
So
He'd write a better letter.
But I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, do you guys, because there's, you know, we do a show every week, and it's, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of planning or prepping. I mean, Tommy thinks a lot more, and we kind of throw a broad, you know, but it could always spend more time on it, be more, you know, to get more stuff. But I don't know if that's always the right formula. But you guys are suggesting that's not something you guys are looking for. You're more or less like the looseness of it, and so
Yeah.
things flows with the individuals.
You
and
just
you guys
get
really
going.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
Let it fly. Let
There's
it
no
shoot
prep
from the hip a
before. You
little
guys
bit.
want to talk about it?
No,
Was there ever a time when that was going on? Did you ever try that?
No.
Yeah,
We've talked about it.
Yeah,
We've had
before,
people,
but right
others
before the
suggest
show.
it, but it just doesn't stick. It's not how, you know, it's like, do you come up with an agenda and a format to talk with your friends?
No, but I
Exactly.
But it depends who the listeners for. I mean, in today's day and age, there's so much information out there, so much material that if you can catch someone's attention to offer them 2 hours to watch and get the
Yeah.
idea, it's very difficult to sell.
Mhm.
You could put in 7-minute, 6-minute segments, which is the world that we've been pulled into for
Mhm.
media. It's just harder. I mean, that's always you know, getting sound bites or having a topic that you discuss over a certain period of time.
Right.
you know, like I look at like the Joe Rogan. You watch it for 2.5 hours or
Mhm.
6 minutes here, 6 minutes here,
Yeah.
get some clips. Whether you like the material or not, that's just like a lot of information.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, get drawn in, you want to watch the whole thing, it's there for you. You know what I mean?
Well, you know that's kind of like a commercial format. That's for like people who are trying to like primarily profit from the podcast and do things like that. And we're really we're about helping people in the community and being a voice.
Right,
You know,
so-
we've taken on certain causes for
I mean,
people.
We've created like different relationships between different companies, and you
I understand.
know,
And
we
I'm
don't
not-
even try to take credit for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
And I guess it depends what everyone's objective is, right? Because I'm
Right.
just, if we're talking about like an entertainment factor, that may not be the drive. It may be something more, you know, like, and the audience that you're speaking to may not be the traditional listener. They may
Mhm.
be people that are really seeking information instead of going to a school or paying someone. You're providing like a great service and they can learn and understand or whatever. It may be.
Yeah, well, Medical Mondays is kind of like a family in a sense where the listeners kind of know us. You know, we've definitely seen each other at events and smoked weed. We're definitely approachable guys. You know,
no,
we
we're
do.
not.
Well, he's not,
Don't
and we
walk
do.
up to me.
You know, we do giveaways on the show. So, like, you know, we've definitely helped people that didn't have some weed to smoke at that current point in time, and you know, we caught them at the right
We have
time. So
giveaways, too, if you're in Michigan.
Do you guys play music?
we tried that, but with YouTube and
Yeah, that's what
copyright,
happens here, too, yeah.
Get flagged.
we actually have a producer that gives us all the music that we play. He
Mm,
created
some
music
original
specifically for us, and
Nice.
yeah, we play it on the
Tommy,
show.
start
So.
composing
There's
some
no
Planet
Paul
Green Tea
McCartney
tunes.
music
Drum
or-
solo.
Come
No.
on.
No.
Yeah.
I used to play all
All right.
the
Well,
time.
We would
yeah.
play some Wings. I'm a fan of Blackbird.
All right, that's fair. You guys music fans, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
generally
yeah.
speaking, you gotta.
You gotta be.
What are you? How old are you guys? So you're.
I'll let you guess.
I have no idea.
You know
How old you are?
Sorry, I'm not. Doesn't matter. I just choose to get a scope of the era that you would have grown up and listened to music as it relates to everything else. That's
I was born in 1977.
All right. Okay. So
Long time ago.
do we go to the debate now, or should we hold off on that? Let's hold off on that. All right. So let's go. Let me tease our topics. We haven't gotten there. I haven't gotten the sign yet, but
Teasing the topics.
start the show as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Chuck.
Well, before you get going, I would just like to say, if we're gonna say a standout member of the Beatles, we should be talking about John.
Of
No?
course.
Yeah,
of course.
I-
Of course. However, okay. Well,
I actually like John Lennon. You know who else I like? I like George Harrison.
I like Ringo too.
Yeah, I'm
Listen.
not so into Ringo, but I don't like Paul McCartney.
That's all
I don't
right.
like his
Who
music. I don't
Who
like
said
the whole
that?
vibe. I don't like any of
Wait a
it.
minute. I didn't see
I
who
just don't
said
like
that.
it.
Who said that?
I like
Me.
all the Beatles.
Did you say?
Jamie,
I like
Jamie,
every
Jamie likes
single one of the
everything.
Beatles.
Every one of them.
Oh man.
there's no question that the reason that you probably like Paul McCartney better, the same reasons the Beatles broke up.
I don't like Paul McCartney.
I'm sorry,
better.
John Lennon better. Same reason they probably broke up, because they were disagreeing on the ultimate sound and direction.
See,
the
Amanda?
feel
For
of the
me,
music.
where Paul
Michael's gonna
McCartney lost me
mansplain
was
the
the divorce.
Beatles to me. Okay, he was
That's
not
where he
even
lost me.
alive.
Recently, you know, to
Yeah,
the,
his divorce. Yeah, that was. Come on, Paul. Come on, Paul.
Here's the thing, you know, he this is the 70s, right? What was John Lennon doing? He was raking, you know, he did some great albums, you know, the whole thing.
You want to? We're gonna
But-
lay into the subject right now.
Yeah, fuck it.
Fuck it.
Your complaint is this: that there was an edge that the Beatles
Prepare
had
better for it with
that
a
was
break, I don't know.
eviscerated.
No,
that was
I don't think
eviscerated in
that. I
Paul-
don't think that the Beatles had an edge at all. I like John Lennon's solo work,
edge.
and I like.
Is there an edge?
Yes,
Okay.
and I like
This
I
is
like
the
George
side.
Harrison's
Body of
like
work.
Middle Eastern kind of flair when he split off to the whole Indian vibe. I like that too. So I
It's
like
the
that
White
vibe.
Album. That's
but
the White Album. If you don't think
it's
that
not
Paul-
the White Album.
It's that whole thing from
I love
Harrison
the White
grew out
Album.
of the White Album, which was
I don't like it.
Extremely- let me ask
It's
you
not
this.
rock
Okay.
and roll. It's not edgy enough for me. I'm sorry. You know the kind of music I like.
She
All
doesn't
right.
like it.
Bang,
I
bang,
don't like it.
Maxwell
Rolling Stones.
Silverhammer.
They were the
Just to make
first
this-
incarnation of the Backstreet Boys.
Was it?
But
was
I
it
never
Paul-
liked any
was-
boy
I said it.
bands. I like you know I like punk rock. I was a punk rocker. I
Banging
like
Wings.
Yeah,
Listen.
I'm down with Wayne.
I like
Band on the
R&B. I like
I
Motown.
cannot believe you just called the Beatles a boy band.
They're a boy band. They
They
were
are.
a boy band. The girls were screaming. There was young girls like 13 screaming woohoo. and all this shit. They were a
Passing
boy
out.
band.
To
He's
say
right.
that you don't like Paul McCartney is to suggest that the Beatles. I mean, he was half the Beatles. Okay, so half those songs were part of.
Except
his,
they
okay,
actually played their
definitely
instruments and wrote their
evolved.
music. Because
She's
boy
saying
bands
she
don't.
doesn't
They're
start
just
saying that she's not
That's number
necessarily-
one.
That I will say.
That's number
I'm
one.
gonna leave it
Deb,
alone.
you already went there. The
And
Beatles.
to suggest that he's not
You
a
include
good,
the Beatles and not really liking the Beatles overall either.
Yeah, I don't.
So that's
I
what I
don't
mean.
like
She
because
did
you don't
go
like
there.
it. So I
don't
take
like
like the
the
Beatles
Beatles.
as one of the, you know, they've been a.
Yeah, but there's
Right.
plenty of people who don't like the
Fine.
Beatles. I don't like
That's
the
fine,
Beatles.
That's fine. And there's different eras that you can find.
She's not
in
the only
Beatles.
one who doesn't like the Beatles.
Right, there are many
You
people.
can not
There
like
used
the
to be a big
Beatles.
thing, Beatles, Stones. You know, like the Michael Jackson Prince
Zappa
thing was the
has said he's
same
not
thing.
particularly
You cannot
Yeah,
like the
there's a lot
Beatles.
of people.
You cannot like the Beatles, but you can't say that they didn't influence any band that you like. It's that simple. Because they created a.
They didn't create everything. You want to know who created rock and roll? It's not the damn Beatles.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
not
say,
saying
you
that.
know,
where
the
are you
Beatles.
from?
break
The
would
Beatles
help.
stole
I think a break
somebody
would really
else's
help for
rock and roll
continuation
shit
of this
and
discussion.
turned
I
it
think-
white.
I think
I'm
so.
not
If we're gonna
talking
say
about
the
that. I'm not
truth, we
talking
got to
about
say that the reason the Beatles even exist is that so when these girls that were screaming for the Beatles and not the actual authors of that music,
Yes.
because culturally that'd be a problem in
Yes.
America and
Yes.
Europe.
Yes.
Listen, I'm not talking. When I say Beatles, I don't even think of early Beatles. I don't even think of early Beatles. I'm thinking like Revolver and On or whatever. But listen. So the point is this. That's a whole different thing. This is when they
Let's
became.
just come back with an intensity that only can be done.
Do we need
by
a break?
First taking a break.
We need a
Wait,
break.
let me
Yeah.
finish. I want to face one point. Your complaint
Let's-
of the difference of Paul McCartney and the solo has been criticized of Paul McCartney in the past.
By me, very loudly.
They've suggested that Deborah, unlike Lennon, who had indulged in all kinds of other recreational substances during this era after the Beatles, Paul McCartney was a huge cannabis smoker.
But having
He
said
has a
that,
song
I've
called
said that I do
Wanna
it.
Get High,
I understand that.
High,
But having
High in the
said that,
Midday
I do
Sun.
enjoy John Lennon. I do
And
enjoy. They're still not in my
the
top
complaint
echelon
about
of musicians.
McCartney has
They're
been that
okay. They're right around
all
here.
of that was
Beatles
influenced
are
by
dope.
cannabis.
I
This
don't
entire
like that though. You're implying somebody that smokes weed should like an artist because
Right,
they smoke.
They
weed.
smoke
Yeah,
weed.
that's BS.
That's
horrible.
BS. That's so
What-
wrong.
what's the
Horrible.
implication?
That's a wrong.
Right.
That
Oh,
you
that
like
because
somebody
they
simply
put-
because they also
You're
smoke
putting
cannabis.
Herb- you're
That's the
giving
only
Herb a
criteria
bad
that you would
name.
give it.
I'm
In that
saying
case-
listen, this is the 70s. You know what was rocking in the 70s?
I was in
Listen to
high
me.
school in the
Free
70s.
thinking.
Were you
Rocking
alive in the
my-
70s?
My daddy's
It was playing in the
balls.
background.
You
when
were
I was
in what?
8.
In
6.
diapers,
Listen to me.
right?
No,
I
no.
was in high school.
Yacht rock.
Well,
Look it up.
Not diapers.
Yacht rock.
Young. but not-
Okay.
Yacht rock.
yacht rock.
Trust me.
I love yacht rock.
Yacht rock.
Who's a yacht rock artist?
It's a genre.
It's like a 70s.
Can you name an artist?
Yacht rock.
Listen, do you know what was going on in
Like,
like the era of like
The
music,
Pina
like
Colada song,
disco, which
Oh,
is the
shit.
thing?
for example.
Disco
Gotcha.
was
That would
never
be
a
like a yacht
thing
rock
for
too.
me. Okay, so
Okay.
I hate disco also.
Okay.
That was never a thing for me. I was into
No.
punk
So
rock
what
when
was
I was
rock
I
and
was
roll
in,
at the
I was
time?
into like punk
Fine,
rock when I
fine.
was in
I'm not
high
gonna argue.
school
I'm not gonna
Caught in
argue.
the rain.
and
All right.
things like
We
that.
got to go to a break.
And Motown and reggae and shit like that.
If
So-
break
But
means
never
smoke weed,
the Beatles.
does break
Sorry.
mean smoke weed? Because I'm with that.
That's it. Let's
For
take a
some of
break.
us- For some of us, it does not necessarily.
In the
for
background will be Paul McCartney music only.
Just
Oh,
everyone. But,
We'll be right
just
back.
control the camera when it gets past.
All right.
so
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Hello, I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and I am kicking it at Komorn's office in conjunction with Planet Green Trees. And today we're going to be talking about how cannabis affects your sleep. Yes, believe it or not, over 75% of cannabis users use cannabis for sleep. And we want to know how and why does cannabis either help you or keep you up at night. And we're going to get into cannabinoids. Cannabinoids, there are three major cannabinoids that have been therapeutically talked about and tossed around right now that helps you sleep. You have THC, you have CBD, and CBN. Now, those are three of hundreds of different cannabinoids, and the science is not there yet, and we're still studying it, but we do know there's three main players, THC, CBD, and CBN, that does help you sleep. So if you're looking for cannabis and you're going to one of the licensed stores, and if you're so lucky in your area, there is one there, you want to ask about their cannabinoid profile of how much CBN, how much THC, and how much CBD is in there. Now, the reason why these cannabinoids actually pair with our body and help us sleep is something called the endocannabinoid system. It is one of the many systems in our body. You have your circular vascular system, you have your skeleton system, you have your cardiovascular system, and there's the endocannabinoid system. So your digestive system. So all these different systems help your body function, and so does the endocannabinoid system. It's actually responsible for bringing balance to your body. Almost like a thermostat, to where if it's too hot, it kind of kicks on the air. If it's too cold, it kicks on the heat. And sometimes we could be deficient in our cannabinoids, just like we're deficient in like vitamin C or vitamin D. We can actually supplement those deficiencies in our human cannabinoids. We call those endocannabinoids because they're inside of our body, from outside cannabinoids. And some of those outside cannabinoids are from plants. They call those phytocannabinoids. And three of those cannabinoids we're talking about is the THC, CBD, and CBN. And they fit like a lock and key with our system, almost as if God intended it to be, right? So a little bit more detail about THC. I know it kind of got a bad rap in the news about it being the psychoactive component of cannabis, but it by itself is really not that effective at all. It has to have an entourage effect. But THC in conjunction with the rest of the plant matter, when it's in high concentration, it does help you sleep. CBD, it really kind of relaxes you. It kind of overall gives you rest. And then CBN, that is more powerful for the sedativeness of the plant matter. So if you consume it, and sometimes you say, "Oh man, I got a couch lock." You kind of don't want to move, or you kind of just chilling, or you sleeping for a long time. Usually, it's not because it's THC or CBD. It's really high in CBN. So those are three key cannabinoids that you want to pay attention to. And because the plant is so wonderful, it doesn't have just cannabinoids; it has terpenes as well, and it also has flavonoids. But there's cannabinoids. Don't want to get too confusing here. There's cannabinoids, there's terpenes, and there's flavonoids. And there's hundreds of each of those. And depending on all the combination of all that, it gives you a different effect. But there's three terpenes I want to highlight. So we talked about the cannabinoids, and also in conjunction with terpenes. And the terpenes I want to talk about is myrcene, caryophyllene, and linalool. Those three terpenes are also responsible for helping you relax. A lot of those terpenes, myrcene, caryophyllene, and linalool, can be found in a lot of purple strands, things that smell like a granddaddy purple or like a grape ape. Usually when you smell those, it has like a lavender purple hue to it, as if purple has a scent to it, but you kind of get the hint to like a grape purple smell to it. And then also with Carafilene is a little bit more piney. That kind of reminds me of like Northern Lights. It's real piney. Those, or even some of the Kushes or some of the cookies can have that kind of scent to it. So your nose can tell you also, you don't have to necessarily depend on a lab test about the cannabinoids. You can trust your instincts, trust your senses, and they also tell you if it's good for sleep as well. So things that have like a lavender smell to it, more of like a grape, purple hue to it, or smell to it, and even piney, those can tell you signals that is good for sleep. And it can be a nice nightcap for you as well. Again, I am Earl from the Cannabis Therapy Network. Check out our podcast at Cannabis Therapy Network on YouTube for more information. And also, we're kicking it with Komorn at Komorn's office.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law to provide clients with results. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
We're here live at the exclusive provisioning center in Ann Arbor for the first day of recreational marijuana sales. We're waiting for the 10 o'clock open. We've got about an hour, but there's plenty of great folks here with us in line. And like I told my buddy Bob, hell, I've been waiting for 44 years for this. Another hour's not going to kill me, especially to be in the company of such excellent people who've been waiting just as long as I have. As I had pointed out earlier, this is a fantastic event, a culmination of decades of hard work, jail time, suffering, sacrifice, and a lot of positivity. So shout out to the medical marijuana community here in the state of Michigan for making this happen. Let's see here, guys. It's your boy, Uncle Jesse. There's the front end of the line before the turn into the store, exclusive provisioning center here in Ann Arbor, man. Again, I keep pointing it out because it's a celebration. This culmination of decades of hard work from some of the OGs, from a lot of advocates and activists. A lot of people have gone to jail. A lot of people have been arrested and treated like shit, had their lives devastated for simple possession. And here we are. Look at this. Look at this, baby. Look at this line. All the way down. All for the sale of adult use cannabis here in the state of Michigan. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I was up here today to document this historic occasion. As I said, man, lots of hard work, lots of trials, tribulations, sacrifices were made in order to have this day. I know I'm with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and we were going to get up here, and then we were debating because of the weather, and then I was like, FTS, baby! We did it, right? So thank every one of you for coming out today. Thanks for making marijuana legal. Let's get it, guys. Make some noise, come on! So right on, man, right on. It's happening. It is happening here. Exclusive provisioning in Ann Arbor. Legal adult use sales. Coming to a place near you soon, right? And shout out to all the OGs who worked hard, like Adam Brooks and Michael Komorn and Rick Thompson and all these guys that have been busting their ass trying to make this happen for decades. You know, shout out, tip of the hat to them guys. So, we don't know that it's overpriced yet, but we do support local farmers. As a matter of fact, to the degree that we hope that most of the provisioning centers are utilizing the emergency rules, allowing us to buy right from the caregivers and the local farmers through the processors and the growers, man. So, you know, yes, we absolutely do support local farmers. I, for one, believe that is the heartbeat and the blood life of all marijuana in Michigan. And until our market is fully saturated and stocked, we're going to need these caregivers. So don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So again, guys, we're here. Exclusive provisioning center in Ann Arbor, here for the opening day of recreational sales. Look, we're here. Yeah. Yep, we are here. Reporting for the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association on this historic day. Woo!
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting into farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Alrighty, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. We are no longer going to talk about Paul McCartney and get on some other topics that we didn't tease before because of
There's a lot of hurt feelings.
Deb's insistence in talking about Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed. Can't we carry this conversation on forever?
Topic number one.
Deb feels as though she won that one.
Yeah, I
did.
totally
She
won
did.
that. Everybody agrees.
But everybody
Federal
still likes Paul a
weed
little bit.
prosecutions fell by 28% in 2019, allegedly. 2. State police lobbyists clear air about marijuana and gun ownership.
Mm-hmm. Clear in the air.
Did they really clear the air?
3. Driving stoned.
Who would
This
do
is like
that?
9
Who would do that?
is much safer than driving drunk, a study finds. This was reported in Time magazine.
Huh.
I think we should
And
have a test.
Newsmakers of 2019, if you didn't know, involved the Crain's Detroit Business Edition, the one and only Andrew Brisbo. There's also Jamie's, is the way he would divert those topics and talk about something else, which is the predictions made by Rick Thompson.
Sure. He wrote the article and he goes
The
over
magnificent
these issues. He kinda
Rick
leaves it up
Thompson.
to others to discuss a little bit.
Yeah.
Where's that? We don't have a thing for it, but we should probably get it.
Jim was supposed to print it up. He said he was.
I
Did
brought
you do
it up,
that?
and then there was some silly music on it.
Oh, there was some music on. He brought it up, and there was music, and
But
he
we-
couldn't do it. See,
I mean,
Michael?
we can go back.
Was it Paul McCartney?
Yeah, well, that's
was
what
not Paul
happened.
McCartney.
He came in and he snatched up the report.
You happen to have it on my phone here.
It's right here.
Oh, well, Jamie's already got it. You know, Jamie's got it right now.
Jimmy got shit. Rick writes here that last year was a red letter history-making year of cannabis glory, which it was.
He has such a way with words.
Talks about CBD being everywhere in America, and that you can go to the gas station. I know the family video stores he mentions here, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a reliable source.
So you go get a VHS video and get your CBD.
I wouldn't recommend anybody do that.
Don't get your CBD from a gas station, people.
I know of a cool
Talks
little spot
about-
in Ypsilanti.
So let's
though.
talk about this. I want to talk about some of these topics.
Okay.
We got topic 1 that CBD is everywhere.
It is everywhere.
And that's purportedly a good thing, right?
Maybe.
Okay. So what does everybody think about that? I'll go last. You guys got a thought on that? CBD everywhere. It's at gas stations
Yeah,
now?
I think that it's horrible because the CBD that's in gas stations and these video stores is untested, and sometimes when it is tested, it's not even CBD. Sometimes it's THC. Sometimes it's a mixture of household products.
Yeah, it's not even cannabis.
Can't that be said for even what would normally be or even suggested trustworthy products. I mean, I saw that there's a CBD product from the PGA of America, the Professional
Mhm.
Golf Association, has a CBD brand. They're
Mhm.
selling it to golf shops, public,
Yeah,
private.
I mean,
it's
they
insane.
might have test results.
I don't know that they do.
Right.
And there's no requirement for it at this point.
Right.
So, and when you say they're testing, like there's no even threshold of standard other than the quantity, right? The purported quantity of THC is the
Well, I know,
thing that's
like,
distinguishing it.
at least in Colorado, there's like, federally licensed cultivators,
Well,
and they have websites, and they provide services, and you can get it with test results. So if you want it, there is ways to get it. But this willy-nilly, pick it up like a bag of chips, that's just silly for anything.
What I'm suggesting is this: you identified a area that is utilizing the existing laws in the United States,
Mhm.
which are the Federal Hemp Farming Act, which legalized the cannabis sativa L plant.
Correct.
Which was any part of it before was illegal. Now it is by default hemp, and only those portions that are greater than 0.03% THC are cannabis or marijuana. So it's totally different change in the world. And Michigan had a program this last year. There's a lot of people we represented or got licensed for that were growing hemp, and there's some rules through the state that they were requiring them to meet before they could harvest, such as the the proof of their. But
I think also they import this shit too from China.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Other than that, than where you're growing it, where it goes from there and how it gets onto the shelf is not articulated in any kind of formal manner as of yet.
Right.
And it's true that there are farms that will certify by testing
Mhm.
biomass and other types of materials. You can buy isolate, distillate, all the different forms that it may potentially come in from labs that will give you a certification. In fact, there are cases that exist where transportation vehicles have been pulled over with what would appear to be a lot of marijuana, and it turns out it's
CBD.
or it's hemp because it came from it's biomass that came from a farm that they're able to establish. If you're driving without that certification from that farm, you end up in Oklahoma or someplace that you don't want to be in. Oklahoma may even change the laws these days, but you know what I'm talking about. Someplace that is totally
good now.
Oklahoma's got a big hemp program too. But anyway, so there's stories, other places that, they're like, and they can't, and ironically, the law enforcement can't delineate or quantify the amount of THC. Their whole existence has always been to identify any amounts of THC, not how much to call it marijuana. So it's at an interesting time right now. And we're talking about this because the illegality aspect of the CBD or the regulations of it are not even in the scope of things right now, although I would predict that this will be the most regulated of all the hemp things when the federal government writes its rules. Anything that's going to be ingested by the human, they are going to make you get a license. If you're going to sell it commercially, you're going to have to go through some threshold of standard. More likely than not, we're just throwing out there like some kind of kitchen, like a approved kitchen. Is that what we want? Were you guys laughing because I said I was going to let everyone go first, and I ended up going because I realized
Amanda's the only one laughing. I want to point that out. The rest of us are just looking serious.
I was laughing on the inside.
Very serious, Michael. Very serious.
Conversational terrorist. I'm fine with that. Okay, listen. What do you guys think about that, you guys? Because you thought that it's bad. You mean it's bad because there's too much crap out there?
Yeah, the market's flooded with boof.
Right.
I don't know what the legal term for that is, but we call it boof. And in theory, CBD everywhere would be great. As far as like the therapeutic effects of like real CBD, it's great. To me, I liken it to being held in your mother's bosom when that CBD hits. You're not high, but you're like just so relaxed and happy and ready to take a nice nap.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the place of
I'm against the bad stuff.
No, I got it. But going from where we are right now to CBD being everywhere is a path that should arguably happen.
Yes.
It's not happening with marijuana, right? Because we've got it's not. I mean, I'm saying in the legalization frame, it's not happening with marijuana. It's like because there's like tax and regulate. Some people think it's crap. You know what I mean? And the marketplace that is current right now is not.
I mean, a lot of people don't want to fucking admit that it's still federally illegal.
Well, there's that, but I'm saying there's
you legally can't.
It's true that the CBD
For a little
thing
while.
is really a big industry in and of itself, and it's getting big and more reach and that kind of stuff. But it got started because of an overblown.
With you there, I mean, go ahead, Berg.
No, that's what they're doing in Utah. Just now, like there's only 10 companies, and they're gonna only have 14 different, marketplaces that they call pharmacies. So, they're not being called dispensaries or.
I got it. And listen, I should preface this by saying, as many of us were in favor of the passage of Prop 1 and legalizing marijuana and what it would mean, there's a number of different interpretations I think that should be taken away on the social justice issue, and maybe they're not being handled properly, but there's certainly adults over the age of 21 being legal and a commercial market is part of the other side of it. And in order to make it legal for adults older than 21 and to regulate a commercial market, there's got to be a free economy. You know what I mean? And if you are, and every time they say no to an opt-in in some community, it's competition for someone to go get it someplace else. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So all these little hurdles and stuff are not going to bring cannabis into the transparency of a free marketplace. Anyone, you fighting with me on that?
Yeah.
You are?
No, I'm not fighting with you. I agree with you.
Okay.
It just takes a while. The process takes a while like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be another 10 years. I mean, they say that they complain that the black market is still thriving. Well, of course it's still thriving.
It's
you
never
can
gonna
get
be
you can get
eliminated.
cannabis per ounce. Compared to recreational, you can get it for what, 25-30% on the street.
I don't see myself ever purchasing cannabis in a licensed dispensary. I mean, it
Because-
would have to be a really unusual situation for
There
me
has
to do
to
that.
be an evolution of the economy of marijuana because the cannabis community, patients, caregivers, have become accustomed to what a price and quality would be. If it's not here, they'll go get it someplace else, right? It's become expected. Now, to say that this controlled economy, which is you want to grow marijuana, it's going to cost you this amount of money to get in the game.
I mean, it
You know what I
varies
mean?
state to state,
Well, that's true. In other states, the price has gone down because they have exorbitant amounts on the shelves.
Oklahoma's booming.
In
Like,
California,
it's
they got on
so
the shelves, they
cheap.
can't get rid of it, but it's because there's a lot of competition that's not part of the regulated system.
And I think that's the problem. The cannabis community industry isn't suited for the government. Like, you can't legislate or
Tomatoes.
litigate what's
But
going
it's not-
on.
It's not because
you
of
know
the
the
other,
relationships that people
It's
have
not because
formed.
of the other
you
market that's
can't.
not regulated. It's because the system isn't adequate. The system doesn't work well.
In other words, you got to be careful when you ask for tax and regulate because, you got to be
That-
careful what you wish for.
That's not true. I don't think that's true. I think that this is it's a fucked up implementation. You look at another industry that's highly taxed and highly regulated, which is alcohol, and you ask yourself, how many people are brewing their own alcohol?
All right, let's talk about that. I like that as an example.
And there
because-
are people that choose to do it, but they don't do it because
Here's
they're
the
trying
idea.
to save money.
Here's the question.
Yeah, they're trying to make.
Here's the question, though. Here you go. So, and I don't know at what point in time it became this visual, but imagine anytime you've ever walked into a liquor store or a gas station and there's a beer truck that some guy or girl is taking a case of beer into the store, opening a cooler, dropping off boxes in there, okay? And it's happening all over the state at around the same time because some guys, are delivering their liquor to fill the orders of standardized liquor in this regulated industry that he is saying the state has done, and it's gotten there. All right, so that's how it is intended to look. If you're going to do marijuana like alcohol, you're talking about it like that.
Yes.
Because it's gotten to the point now where the price, margin of price, the availability of it is now so competitive that no one is going to brew it in their bathtub. But how far away are we from that? And
We are so. I mean, we're a decade away, at least.
We should
But
always
we're not-
be.
that's-
It's
that
not
particular
alcohol.
system is not
I-
gonna-
listen,
it's
I'm
It's not
not-
alcohol.
I'm
By
not
comparing
suggesting
it to alcohol, you diminish the true value of cannabis because it's not a party thing. It's not a poison.
I'm referring to it as a law, though.
And I'm saying,
And the way that it's legal,
cannabis should be legal like yoga, like jogging.
Okay, that's the tomato.
It's therapeutic.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm saying
I don't think anybody disagrees, but there's just in
Here-
the
here we
current
are.
Political climate. This is what we're left with,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's a lot of.
But it was selling it to the public too. You
Yeah.
can't just sell it to the public like, "Hey, we're just legalizing weed. Everybody, everything." You can't. The public.
No,
So that's why it was done that
understood,
way. You know,
but I
the
feel
easiest
like
way to get it passed.
the way that it would work is if we work with a like patient to patient model. This bringing in corporations and
That can still be
growers
done, though.
trying to hit these
As long
numbers.
as we keep it alive.
You
know.
totally take away from cannabis what makes it special by doing it that way.
Think about this other thing.
Well, that's the carrot was going to be the like
Yeah.
Gage
micro
Cannabis,
business.
where are they from?
Be more like that.
Actually, the
Colorado,
main dudes
I think?
are from. I mean, they're
Yeah,
they're
out west
to a
somewhere.
larger organization, but the main
I
dudes
heard
running it
they're-
here are from Detroit area.
Yeah, but, you know,
good
how long will
people,
that
but,
last?
You know, they're pushing boof.
Money goes out
There's
of
a
state.
shortage of quality flower.
Yeah, that's going
The
to be a while
accessibility
before
to bring it
Yeah,
in.
$50, $60, $70 an eighth for some bullshit.
So that's part of the
Yeah.
that's part of the supply chain discussion, by the way.
accessibility,
Legal weed.
Why would
the
anybody
availability,
do that? I
ease,
don't know.
ease by which, at some point it was, the emergency rules of 2018, the entire year, even to April of 2019, allowed direct caregiver. This is the golden age for these dispensaries, right? This is
And
actually
it's still going on in many forms.
not
currently.
many, a couple stores. All others, but now they can buy. The growers can buy and flip it, which is a good model for them, as opposed to the cost of a building that costs them, you know, and electricity and employees, right? So, what I'm saying is that design, which is the structure by which the MMFLA began, and as Lara took hold of control of the rules, is used as the next, you know, stage of, you know, this phase 2 of the applications where they got to approve the building and meet, you know, like just government regulations. Like the new thing is the EPA water and air quality that they are making you fix. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I can't wait till OSHA
meanwhile, in
starts
Crain.
stepping in.
Well,
That's going to be fun.
so
I'll take a paragraph from Rick's supply chain.
let's, okay, what were we talking? We're talking about, so that
we just started talking about supply chains.
we're
That's
talking
what I
about
wanted
CBD.
to.
We talked about CBD.
We were. We talked about that. Now we got
We
into
started.
those. Let's
we had
continue on
a
this.
wide breadth of coverage of
So,
topics.
Did everyone get a chance to comment there? Because I didn't want
Everybody
I think we
commented.
did.
We're
I think
moving
everybody
on.
got
Yeah,
to
everybody
comment.
feels satisfied.
All right, good.
So
Quite
here's just a
satisfied.
paragraph from the section
All over Jamie's
on
face.
supply chain in Rick's article. But supply chain problems have plagued the MMFLA since its launch. Some distribution centers are being charged outrageous prices for even moderately marketable cannabis flower.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Allowing the adult use market to bleed cannabis from the medical program is not going to help medical marijuana licensees keep their shelves full. And part of the slow process is those places that now have been approved for medical, not all of those communities are immediately adopting the MRTMA, even though the incentive for the revenue sharing only exists with retail stores under the MRTMA. So that's part of the what's stringing out this process too.
Yeah.
It's also unfortunate because of the supply chain problems that if they were trying to, as there seems to be their intention, give the benefit of the doubt to those that went through the MMFLA licensing process, expensive, you know, huge background check. I'm not saying good or bad, but the way the law is written allowed limited number of people with a huge investment involved to get to that particular, and then they get the pass for the first 2 years to get to the recreation market. What kind of hurdles are preventing them from even being able to do that? You know what I mean? They're not, you know, overabundance in the shelves, or all the the recreational market is flat right now, right? I mean, it's not like
Well, what is stopping it? I mean,
I think there's a
Flat because
shortage
of supply, you mean?
Yeah, shortage of supply.
Well, I mean, there's,
But
there's
it's
not,
gonna-
not
I'm
shortage
saying-
of demand. So like,
Right.
So like Deb, for example, says she's not going to buy into the commercial market because she's not in a position where that's appealing to her or necessary. There are people who are going to do a combination of both, and there are a lot of people, as we're seeing the last couple of weeks, that want to go to a store and be
gonna go to the
21 or over
store.
and just buy something and have
It's
that be
easy, it's
something for
convenient.
Yeah,
everybody.
I
This
feel that a
pie's pretty
casual
big here.
user will do that. They'll go into
Yeah.
the store, buy a couple grams, buy a couple pre-rolls or something for some kind of occasion or something. But
It's the federal.
But that's the thing.
That's
There's a
not-
cannabis community of users, recreational or medical, and then there's everybody else that is not within that.
It'll
where they would
be a
normally have
novelty.
source.
Yeah.
Right. where
Yeah.
like they like the idea of it being legal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to go in and buy it, walk out, go home, smoke it in their house, and not leave. You know, there's going to be an appeal of those people that want to do that. That's not the group that we're talking about that are more connoisseur and expectations of price and whatnot. Connoisseur. But you know what I mean. And but I also think that beyond that group of individuals, most people, because we live in such a commercialized environment of all things, you know, you want to not just look at it in a magazine or online. You want to see what the reviews are, right? You read reviews before you buy something online, because everyone's got an opinion. We live a consumer. Everyone's an expert, right? They can tell you exactly what may be helpful, may not be. And the way we purchase things in stores or the way we purchase goods that we consume are packaged on shelves in a way that you kind of, you know. So there's an appeal of that. I don't know that it works the same for a cannabis community because they've been accustomed to getting it out of people's basements or.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, everything you said does not apply to somebody with a tumor. Everything you said doesn't apply to somebody suffering from cancer. They want effectiveness.
You know what's
they don't want
horrible?
flash. They don't want packaging.
9 times out of 10, if you walk into a dispensary, they don't even have RSO.
Yep.
I would say this, and the point
part of the supply
I'm
chain
not-
issue right there.
Yeah.
I was describing the economy of that, and what's even worse, to add to your point, which is that this purported benefit, and look, if you have an MMFLA license, you're limited in your ability to be great, give discounts to patients because you only have a 300,000 list of potential customers, which is the patient list. You need to have a wider group of people from retail markets so you can make money, and then better service the patients. However, this ability to do this is not happening, and the retail centers are not flush with business, and there's not enough flour for them to sell anyways. So they're losing out on this opportunity. And as things catch up in that regard, there's a disincentive of these entities to maintain their medical license, because in 2 years, just about anybody can get a recreational license. They don't have to pay $80,000 or $40,000 for the annual license for the last 2 years. Why would someone that's made it 2 years do that other? Unless they truly are looking to give back to the medical cannabis community. It's going to be a money question. You may say, because in order to be a medical marijuana place, you got to continue to pay these regulatory fees. To be recreational, after 2 years, it's going to be a free-for-all, and it's going to be wider market. Like what I'm saying, you have fewer people that you can sell to and have to pay a lot more regulatory fees. So the idea that the patient market could get lost is likely, which is the reason why the MMA should not be overlooked, and the need for caregivers, that patient, the protections of the MMA, even though there's always been talk about running out the caregivers. But, I've been thinking having more involvement and easier access from caregivers other than this 100 plant, whatever thing is.
And a source like the MMA could also help those retail stores that need to maintain a niche for those people in the marketplace looking for like medically specific products made with cannabis.
Sure.
There's still going to be a need to put those on the shelf, whether or not you specifically have a medical license or not, and to be able to offer up help with that as a resource for some of these stores.
And like,
be good too.
And even I would say that you need to have educated people behind the counters for the patients coming in, or even the recreational people coming in. I've been to places where they didn't know what a terpene was.
I've got a part of some retail operations or medical and soon to be retail, and it's very important in part to the staff, and I personally am there working with them often to cover that kind of ground, to be able to walk somebody through a reasonable process of what's going on with this stuff and what the options are and delivery systems and expectations, and how to like kind of figure out for themselves what's working, or what may not be the best way to go, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very important. A lot of newbies with a new access.
Yeah. Don't want them having a bad experience.
Go ahead. What's the other?
They could have a bad trip.
Yeah.
Rick's predictions.
Where is Rick? How come Rick's not calling in?
Nailed that.
He could be.
Let's go. We got him.
What happened to everybody who was calling in? Nobody did.
Earl, did you have any final commentary? Supply chain.
Supply chain. All right. So here's an interesting area that he believes that because a lot of stuff's already happening for the first time, up till now, first retail stores are opening, the first big cultivation for rec. The MRTMA is getting started.
This
There's not
just pertaining to Michigan.
Yes, just Michigan. There's not going to be as much media coverage this year on the industry development because a lot of stuff.
I think he's right.
Already kind of happened. All the
there's no big election coming up. Everything's kind of in place.
He says cannabis milestones were
Yeah.
featured front and center by Michigan's news publications in 2019. In 2020, there will be few, quote, first ever, unquote, events, and the news coverage will not be as brisk as it has been.
Not as brisk.
Because it's a normal thing now.
But there could be a lot of legislative action discussion of possibly amending
Yeah.
stuff or
Probably get rid of the
companion bills,
MMFLA.
or there might be that kind of shit going on. That'll be some coverage.
Because who needs it, really? Get rid of
And,
it. They should just kill it.
And
what's that?
The MMFLA. Just kill it.
And the MRTMA is not covering all areas of the state. As it gets to new areas, they'll get a little more coverage, I think.
Well, I think
Bay
that's
City came after a lot of excitement with
Yeah.
Ann Arbor and other areas, and that was still a big one.
Yeah.
I'm associated with the Botanical Company of Taos, and they are
Do
about
tell.
ready to approve MRTMA, and we are in line with one other place, a nice place, High Level Health. People remember the Agro family; they're involved with that, Nick Agro. And they'll be the two places in the area given the MRTMA license. So that's soon for us in that area, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think that should be news.
Yeah, I've been
It's
up
not,
there.
it
It's
is
a
now.
really nice facility. Really nice. Jamie's facility, I mean, not the Agros. Really nice.
I think the Agros in and of themselves have a fascinating story, and to see them.
Oh, man, yeah.
To get to
some tragedy in
well,
it.
still, yeah. I mean, beyond. I mean, it's right. It's deep, and there's a lot depth there, and the idea that they would hold a license.
Yeah,
after
it's
all that,
kind
it's kind of
of it is a justice in a way, for sure. Yep. And Nick does a great job too.
Let me. Oh, okay. All right. I had a final prediction. Do we have time for that? It's 30 seconds.
Fast, 30, go.
2020 will see more.
So Adam Brook just commented. I just want to.
Okay.
What did he say?
Adam chimes
Adam
in
Brook.
with the problem is you have non-weed users making the rules.
There you go, Adam.
Yes.
It's a
Boom.
huge problem. People don't understand
Yeah.
the nature of cannabis, and
Yep.
they make these decisions that
Yep.
that information would be necessary to really be responsible with, and they misfire.
Well, I
Green
suggest
Peak-
we put Jamie in charge of everything. If you're in charge of everything,
Yeah.
then
I
everybody
wish I could
knows
clone
everything's
myself.
being
I would solve all
understood.
these issues. That's right.
That's correct, Adam, right?
It's political extortion.
I want to respond to Adam, and then I want to make my final point. The idea that yes, I've made this joke. You know, the Democrats were the ones that became supporters of of cannabis, right? You know, it was more of that, and I think that's why the Republicans may not have prevailed. But when you look at the way that was presented to them and the way that it got to this point, it was, you're telling me that it's a popular topic and I can raise taxes from it. Sign me up, without any other education or evolution or rewiring of any of the problems that exist. And unless you acknowledge and recognize those things, you can't even begin to write the law appropriately the next way, you know, as it's legal. And you have a missing of all this social injustice that still remains. And I can... We come
Did
back after
Earl
the
just
break.
eat a candy off the floor? Wait, excuse me. Did Earl just eat a peach ring off the floor?
Camera, was it?
We got to see that on camera.
Yeah.
Was it indeed 5 seconds?
Yeah, was it?
No,
I
I
was less than a
If
second,
you
I
wouldn't have done it,
swear.
I would have done it.
Well,
fine.
yeah.
Aye.
That I know, but I was shocked to see Earl do it. I knew Jamie would do it.
Ah.
She just wanted.
Sorry,
to point
Michael.
that
No,
out
I mean,
live.
you know, you're...
It's like, breaking
was
news,
like,
current
"Oh."
events.
Breaking news.
Candy
We
on
gotta
the
wrap it up.
floor.
All right,
Everybody.
let's go to break. We got it
We're going to a break.
ready for a break. Okay, we'll be right back. Thanks for interrupting.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are tuning in to Kicking It with Komorn, where we take a new topic every month based upon what you want to learn about legality and cannabis in Michigan.
It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stir for breathing air. Set him free, let him be, breathing air like you and me. What's the judge to do? What else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him free. This whole place went nuts. If he was a soldier man, shooting gooks in Vietnam. If he was CIA, selling dope and making hay, he'd be free, breathing air like you and me. What's a judge do? What else could Judge Columba do? Well, we got to set him free. And sure enough, that was Saturday, and then next Monday, John Sinclair walked out of jail. And the Supreme Court issued an opinion in People versus John Sinclair that said, it's cruel, it's unusual, it's arbitrary, it's irrational, it's capricious, and it cannot be the law in the state of Michigan that we treat marijuana the same way we treat opioids. And they set him free. Hi, I'm Jeff Frazier. I'm one of the attorneys at Komorn Law in Michigan. And on behalf of poet John Sinclair, some doctors, some pharmacists, some organizations, we're suing the Michigan Board of Pharmacy to finally, once and for all, to remove marijuana from the Michigan list of controlled substances. John Sinclair was and is a poet provocateur, and adamant opponent and protester against America's involvement in the Vietnam War and all the bombings. He was organized together with Abby Hoffman and Jerry Rubin and the Black Panthers guys. And, you know, he organized against the war, and in his words, you know, we were protesting the war and we were advocating for the legalization of marijuana, all the while smoking vast quantities of it. We ought to do something about finally getting this plant off of the controlled substances list. We have law where the state of Michigan is licensing the medical use of marijuana. At the same time, it says under the Board of Pharmacy says under the Controlled Substances Act that it is still a controlled substance. And not only is it still a controlled substance, it's still a Schedule I controlled substance. And being Schedule I controlled substance means that it is contraband per se, and that its mere presence is evidence of a crime, and it justifies the raids. The Michigan State Police spend 40% of their resources going after marijuana that is allowed for medical use, is licensed by the state, is now been voted into law by the people of this state to be legal for adult use. And yet it's still 40% of the police budget, still 40% of the prosecutor's daily load, it's still 40% of the Michigan State Police Crime Lab daily load. And it's still Schedule I, which justifies the stops, the searches, the seizures, and more importantly, the raids. And that means men with AR-15s and ski masks going in where men, women, and children and dogs and grandparents, you know, are quietly sitting there watching TV. And because the neighbor complained of the smell of marijuana coming from a basement window, these patients or caregivers who are, and now any citizen in the state is allowed to grow. The continued placement of marijuana on the Michigan State list of controlled substances is just simply absurd. Hopefully we'll get our hearing. If not, then we'll fight it out in the Court of Appeals and ultimately back to the Supreme Court that originally spoke in the case of John Sinclair back in 1971. It's time for, you know, this absurdity that has forever lived at the heart of the drug war to be done with. And the way to do that is to take marijuana off the controlled substances list altogether. It's no longer to be policed. It's to be regulated.
It's time for Planet Green.
We have launched.
We've completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally, and internationally, and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
And now back to more Planet Green Trees.
All right, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. Planet Green Trees is officially episode 446. We got about a half hour or so left. In the studio with us are Jeff and Roech from Medical Mondays. We've got our usual suspects, including Jamie Lowell, who's acting. What are you doing over there, nefarious acting, Jamie?
He's going to adult websites.
He's fooling with all the knobs. Why did I get so loud?
I can't believe he's letting you call him Berg like that.
Yeah,
I mean, Jeff like that.
Yeah, his name is Berg. I mean, his name is Jeff, but he likes to be called Berg. You keep calling him Jeff. You're like ruining his rep.
I'm sorry. You don't feel
really disrespectful.
Michael's only reading. He's only reading his script there. So we're blaming Tommy because Tommy's the one that put that in there.
You fucked up, Tommy.
And Tommy should know better. You should know better, Tommy.
All right, so and when we left the last segment there, we had realized that non-cannabis enthusiasts are the ones making the laws. This is problematic. The many social justice issues that still remain across the board, primarily because cannabis is still listed in Michigan law as a Schedule 1. As many of you know, that we've a lawsuit that we filed, Komorn Law, with the Cannabis Council on behalf of John Sinclair, asking the Court of Claims to...
Didn't Paul McCartney write a song about John Sinclair? No, it was John
that
Lennon.
was John Lennon.
It was.
Oh, John.
I was just making the point.
Listen, by loving Paul McCartney, we don't necessarily dislike John Lennon. I'm not... He's, all right.
You don't like John Lennon?
I'm
Michael
kidding with
doesn't
you,
like
man.
John Lennon.
That's not even a close to a thing.
See, it's not. John Lennon's not even
That's
close.
not even close to a thing. He's much, actually, Better catalog. Better catalog. But it doesn't mean that Wings at the Speed of Sound is not a great album. That's it.
And he had
Somebody
Michael
come here.
Jackson killed.
All right.
Oh.
All right. So,
oh.
so there was that. And I have a final prediction for 2020 in that, as Murtma allows, states that marijuana is no longer against public policy, and it's like a code word for when you make legislation that if it was a topic or issue that could not be litigated in the courts. So marijuana, you couldn't sue anyone before.
Oh no.
About marijuana. So Murtma allows now to recognize it in his language therein. Opens the path for. There was a couple cases before the MMFLA happened where people were suing over caregiver grows. It's not even a thing, and they were ultimately thrown out because it's not a legal act. It wasn't a legal activity type. But now you have contracts and licenses, and cities that have opted in to allow for MMFLA behavior and not recreational. So my prediction as a lawyer, here you go. I'm going on a limb here. There's going to be a lot of litigation over marijuana in the courts. How about that? Is that terrible? Is it funny at all? And one of them, I think the biggest one is going to be the litigation involving cities, or townships, villages that have opted in for the MMFLA and now think they can opt out for recreational. Watch what happens. The courts will be ruling in favor of the business owners, forcing these cities to opt in to sell recreational marijuana.
Yep.
And I would say even suggest that if it doesn't happen, most of these programs
It's already happened.
fall apart.
It's already happened.
There's one lawsuit.
It's a pretty big lawsuit. It's against the biggest city in the state.
It's this lawsuit on an issue that applies all over the place, multiple places. So it doesn't matter. The city itself, who it is, doesn't matter. The law is the law that's going to dictate. And I'm predicting that there'll be more of that, or other cities joining that, or that should right now. Those are my predictions. Any comments on that? You think that's? I think the price of marijuana is going to remain high
for now
in the stores.
In the stores, yep.
And that those that have licenses, despite the litigation that may produce the cities that they're in to force the opt-in for recreational marijuana, it is going to be a tough year for the businesses.
Yep.
Moving forward, and they're going to have a tough time competing with the, non-licensed behavior. Let's call
Well,
it
we've seen people already go out of business.
Right.
So they
It's
couldn't
hard
hang
for the
and
mom and pop place to stay
You're gonna
in
have to
business
hang for
without making
a few
profits.
more
Oh no,
years.
you're gonna. It's an investment for the
It's a
folks that will
long-term
make
one.
it.
Yep.
Well, no, I mean it kind of sucks that the people that kind of built the base for what corporate cannabis is going to do is completely getting pushed out.
Yeah, nobody I know has a license, a
Well,
real license.
I would even say that the base that
Nobody
you're
I know.
talking about was not invited into
The one
this
person
program.
I do
They're
know
specifically
doesn't have it any
precluded.
longer.
Well,
you
it's
can argue
just-
precluded, and then if someone was even in that realm and were able to get into it, it's you need a bottomless pit of resources.
You have to be able to
keep-
sustain that business for several years until you can turn a profit, because this is a very weird rollout, and we already know what happened with Q's place.
Yeah.
So,
And not to mention, I mean, you've got 280E still, and
True.
that's a huge problem. It is I shouldn't say it's impossible, but it is very, very hard to be in this industry, be legit, and make money. And the people that are going to survive are the ones that can afford to dump a shitload of capital into these businesses and wait it out.
and float it out. Yep.
in
Eventually,
the
they're gonna
year
make money,
before,
but I don't know.
after, in sampling the other states, similar developments, evolving of the industry took place. And if there was a comparison for the way that the tax and regulate works, you could say the alcohol industry, may mirror it. What do I mean by that? There's, equivalent types of licenses in the liquor industry, like distributorships, like there's, and to be able to distribute, and you're buying and bringing it to the state, or taking it from the, shelves and selling it on contract or whatever. And if there was a lot of those types of licenses, and the margins now at this particular point are so small that the little mom and pop place can't doesn't make sense for them to keep it anymore. Right. So you have these larger conglomerates buying up the mom and pop places that used to run them because the margins only make sense if you have 10 or 15 of them. You see what I'm saying?
When you're talking about mom and pop spots, you're talking about the actual like recreational market, or
I'm really talking about liquor for right now, and I just mean that in the sense of somebody having one or two distributor things for alcohol, distributor licenses for alcohol, is less common now than you see one group having 10 or 15, because to sustain a one or two license of that is the margins don't make sense, because the price of alcohol, buying, selling, and taxing is not that much unless you have 10 of them and you're making, the 2 cents on every whatever. It's
you just got a lot of move a lot more product.
Right. So the more you have, then you can do right. So that's why these places are vulnerable. And I'm comparing to a certain extent the mom and pa to like the person that would only have 1 or 2 distributorships versus someone that has 10. Someone's got the has got the staying power, backing cash in the reserves to just keep, making small margins until they buy up more to make a little bit more. So they're dealing with this weak market, and everyone else isn't strong enough to survive the next year. If you're,
everybody needs to survive till it goes federally legal.
Right.
But
right, but what does that mean? Like, who's got that kind of money? Like, if this happens in a year,
exactly.
If you've been doing it for 2 years and you've been waiting,
I say
you could have burnt all your money
for 10 years to legally, quote unquote, legally do it.
Here's the thing, you're talking about businesses surviving. What about the patients? Recreational, the door is wide open. They're removing the hurdles that were there for medical, which is kind of disgusting, but whatever. It's all the way in, but the patients are really the ones that are going to suffer.
They're already suffering.
They already have, and
can't-
they will continue to.
I don't see how, if anybody really needed medicine on a daily basis, you're going to have a ton of cash to buy from a dispensary. Ridiculous amount of cash.
This might be a good time to do a plug for the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The remaining and sole patient website, very in-depth forums. Still looking out for the patients' protections in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and caregivers, and anyone that is seeking services as a patient can find a caregiver there usually. People will tell you when they have an opening and connect and, suggest different types of strains or, methods of ingestion that they may provide. And I think it's imperative for our community that those things remain, right? Am I right, Deb? Do we not need more caregiver power?
We need it. Tons of caregiver power. Power to the caregivers.
Jim, is it going to happen? Or are they going to run them out of town? What do you think?
They're going to run them out of town. They said as much.
How fast?
It's going to be a minute because they don't have a system that works yet.
Right.
The system's broke, and they know it. Once they think the system works, the state police have said over and over again that has always been their intention. I don't know that it'll happen under the current administration. I hope not. It might. But after the change in guard in 4 years, who knows? I'd say probably 5 years, and they're going to start really clamping down.
What do you guys think about this? Because we know that when, that whole, you guys are around long enough, like when there was a point in time that the community kind of gathered and approved the idea of a commercial system, 2014, 14, I think, and the idea was that the caregivers would be the suppliers, and it didn't get voted on. The next year, Schneider came back and created this mess of a system, basically cutting everybody out. And at the time, it was clearly done with the idea of not having the caregivers be the source of the marijuana, right? So, and since that time, and the testimony that was associated with it by the state police and blah, 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 was always with the idea that, caregivers bad, felony behavior, et cetera, they can't be trusted. We got to take them out. And they built a system that is not caregiver friendly. It's the opposite, right? But sure enough, 2017, 18, even into 19 comes around, their system's broken. They got to rely on the caregivers. They need overages, something that was a felonizing term, that if you even said overages, during a police interrogation, checking your, compliance, you're getting forfeited, you're getting felonized, you're getting criminalized, and all that just on overage. But then this is the way that they save the system. So the idea that the caregivers were not of value is absurd, right? So then they stopped this in April of this last year, and they're still letting caregivers sell directly to the growers and processors, which is the business model. A lot of the licensees are.
It's a good model. That's the way it should continue. Frankly, I think that at that point, the growers and the processors are able to accept the organic material from the growers, and they can run it through whatever testing scheme that the state wants to implement at that point in time, and they can ensure it's safe, and it helps to supplement a market that is just not even close to saturated.
What's going on over there, Jamie?
Jamie, what are you doing over there?
What the hell?
He's hacking into your internal systems here, Michael.
I
He's
saw
got all your
credit card
financial
numbers.
records.
I saw 16 digits. What was that?
All right, Jamie.
Chad Morrow.
Well, I mean, it's broken. The system's broken. It's going to continue to be broken. And in a couple of years, when, everything is in place, it's going to be like any other regulated part of government. There's going to be buy-offs and BS and fake inspections and things swept under the rug, just like every other thing that happens in Michigan, unfortunately.
And this is a good segue for what I want to talk about next, but the significance of the MMMA, patients and caregivers, I think in the fact that it's a voter initiative can't be understated, and certainly the idea that it's no longer needed or it's a competing marketplace for this regulated system after relying on it up to this point as a sole source. And we're mindful of they call the Class A licenses in the Prop 1 legislation, which allows someone to get a 100-plant license, come out of your basement, quote unquote, as a caregiver, and get into the light, so to speak, and have a facility that's been inspected and approved, and at any time they come in and whatever you're putting into the market, you can sell onto the state market recreationally. But you're in the system now, so to speak. So they're trying. That's kind of a little bringing out of the basement into the.
I mean, things started with the best intentions. It was a patient-driven, it was a community-driven initiative. But I think Proposal 1 used everyone's good intentions against them. Because, what was it, 6 days into Proposal 1, they wanted to take away the home grows and the whole caregiver aspect of it. So,
Not even
it's really a money thing.
Yeah. I mean, they were trying to take away home grows.
Well, we're fortunate that that's a thing.
And all of this is a big cash grab by politicians because, they let it start out. And then they saw the money and the funds that were being generated, and they were not getting a cut of it, and they definitely need their cut. And as far as it being illegal federally, I think the moment they calculate the right number to take from people, it'll be federally legal.
And then once
for
that
sure.
goes into effect, you got to deal with FDA.
Right. One of the compelling arguments I'm not saying it's compelling, that seems to be compelling to many, is that if you don't have a license, you shouldn't be engaged in this activity, right? And this is something that would be subscribed to by, business owners now who are now adverse to the quote-unquote illegal market, right? Instead of seeing it as competition, they should be better than, theoretically, and force an industry. And also, the idea that they would even consider police actions as a remedy for this quote-unquote illicit
competition,
behavior. Yeah, I mean, we should all agree that your ability to sell marijuana recreationally in a commercial market legally means that if someone's competing with you without a license, they should be shut down civilly by a lock on the door and some kind of injunction. We're not in a criminalizing world anymore. We should all accept that. Otherwise, they shouldn't be able to sell marijuana. Right? See what I'm saying?
True. And I mean, for a long time, people were trying to be legal. They thought they were being legal. They thought they were going to be able to, pass something on to their children. And like almost overnight, all of that went out the door, and they were back in the black market being criminals. And yeah, they could stop and try to wait out this legalization
you mean like MMA?
thing.
You mean?
Yeah, but in the end of it, like them stopping is like taking relief away from one of their patients. You know, they have like moral obligations to fulfill.
You know, it is a very there was a major listen. I think the MMA is a really well written law, and we don't want to knock it because at the end of the day, the ability to grow 72 plants or 60 plants is a phenomenal. You know,
yeah, I thought it was
we want
good.
to make sure that the caregivers go on to exist, but the dilemma of how to deal with that activity in a commercial world, in that we live in the United States. It's almost like a religion. I don't subscribe to this, but
it's
commerce,
capitalist society.
There you go. So I'm saying it's the idea that you're going to empower these individuals, and even if the original plan was compassion clubs, and we could all define what the old school compassion clubs were, that there was no, you know, monetary drive, and certainly not transparency or storefronts. It's kind of community based and helping each other out. That's going to last how long until someone wants to open a store? You can't stop it. It's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Commerciality and retail is going to drive someone to, and the more unregulated it is, the people that go to the front of the line are the crazies, the ones that want to put their neck on the line. So that's the environment that this created, despite the fact that the MMA itself, I think, was a very well-written law. And at the end of the day, as this system gets upside down and backwards and they don't consider the end user, it should be, as you said, the remaining source for patients to find good quality cannabis, or caregivers that can deal directly with them and try to facilitate their medical cannabis needs, you know, whether it be a suppository or Simpson oil or, you know, some other, you know, some lotions and gels or topicals, you know, that,
I mean,
I hear you. And there will be a niche for that, I think. At some retail places, Jamie and I have talked about, like some retail places that are big money, you know, their best play maybe to be to, even though it's recreation, they could still make medical products.
Yeah,
and
I
carve
mean,
it out
like
for,
you said earlier, I want to see some of these micro businesses get off the ground and these consumption lounges.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to, because I was opposed to Proposal 1, but there are good things there, and it's here, so we might as well try to take advantage of it. So I think that's an opportunity for people to step out of the criminal light of all of this.
I agree. It's such a taboo to see someone smoking a marijuana joint in public right now. It's such a like, you don't see it on TV. You see people drinking beer, sexy, hot, sexy people drinking beer, whatever.
Even on Food Network, they're just throwing it in the food.
The process of what went into Prop 1 might help. I'm not saying we necessarily get into it right now, but may help with some perspective as to know how it got to be, how it is. Because certainly many of us working directly on it did want to be more broad and liberal. But there are, you know, real limitations, you know, to what was possible for the process. But that's a discussion we can have.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a grandparent saying that goes along with that, but it's not coming to mind at the moment.
So we covered none of the topics. Tommy, I hope you're not disappointed.
Really fucked
I think Tommy's prepared.
Something about deal with the devil.
Because we got about 10 minutes left, but I wanted to say this: that we're talking about the MMA, and I wanted to, you know, you wouldn't think that it would be.
We still have 12 minutes. You
okay,
12 minutes.
You would
dive
think,
right in.
You think that it wouldn't be that important to, other than this idea of continuing to grow, because that's really what we're talking about. You know, the general principle of that initiative, which had more votes than any other election in the history of Michigan elections, still to this day, 3.3 million people voted for it, included plants being grown in someone's home, and now the recreational law and stuff. So to take that away for a state legislative created, regulated marijuana industry is kind of adverse to the balance of the scales, I would say. But why am I saying all this? Because the MMA is important, and I have a case that we're still going on, and I want to report on it because we got a opinion back from the Court of Appeals, and I'd like to report the victories, both because it shows that my legal skills in the law firm are superior to all
We definitely
others.
all want to hear it,
And
because we all agree with that.
To also educate the community on some of the nonsense, and also to point out one of the things we were talking before, which is that the social injustice that this is still taking place is absurd. The fact that I have to get fired up to argue this case or even be happy that's all right. So to understand, it's out in the west part of the state. The names shall remain anonymous this time, but in a period pre-licensing, different places were getting raided out there. This situation in alleging that my client involved not a place that was ever deemed open for the public to come and go, but and there's no evidence of anything like that, but a call was made by an undercover police officer trying to purchase cannabis. He met them at a particular store and denied, said, I'm not interested in, you don't have a card, blah, 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 talked to him. She called again on another occasion, denied it. And then on a third occasion, called and met again at the store, but brought her sick uncle. So on 3 occasions, her attempts to purchase the cannabis were denied. Sick uncle is there.
Undercover police?
Complaining. It wasn't undercover police. But and did not have a card, of course. Had just a recommendation. This is like a bait and switch kind of nonsense cop logic stuff that somehow is going to make it more nefarious. You know what I mean? That they took a recommendation. Anyone could have a
They didn't even have a card, and they sold it to me.
Whatever cop logic it is. So the uncle, though, has a card. So they go into the back room, cut off from any visual or auditory listening that could take place from anyone on the outside. And what was testified to in court was that the interaction was essentially like a medical interaction. Guy complained about his back. My guy asked him about his doctor visits and went through the whole like a section. So anyways, provides him like 1 gram of high CBD, low THC cannabis to make it through the night. Okay, walks out allegedly from him. Allegedly, nobody sees it, but this is the allegation based upon circumstantial evidence because the individual himself with the card that used his card to get this and complain has never been produced. Okay, so they're running this on this kind of circumstantial confrontation clause, questionable, case. So they then, receive this and put in evidence to get a warrant to go back to the store and get the cars coming and going from there. And a couple hours after this takes place, my guy gets in his car and he leaves. Starts driving away. They pull the car over and they find cannabis, flower, and some medibles and waxes in there as well, all within his volume limitation. You guys know what I mean by that?
Yeah, for his personal use.
So, whatever. You know what I mean. All right, so,
no,
it's not for his personal use. He's a caregiver.
He's a caregiver, so he's got
volume limitation of his own use.
Right, so he's got 15 ounces, whatever.
Licensing, right?
He's got his 15 ounces and his X amount of grams of concentrate.
With all the proper formulas being applied to the infused products.
And he has the paperwork on his patients. He's ready to go. Go, Michael.
Charged with 3 counts. One is the delivery of marijuana to this uncle.
One count.
Second one is the marijuana flower that's in the vehicle, possession with the intent to deliver. And count 3 is the possession of synthetic. This is still going on.
And they were still calling concentrates.
Okay, and I want you to know that so this is still going on. This is absurd that this is but we run our Section 8 defense and Section 4 defense because the officer who testifies in the case of what they took out of his vehicle says the amount of marijuana in non-marijuana, non-plant material he had was an amount that he's allowed to have pursuant to the number of cards he has. Okay? So, and he testified, it took the stand in Section 4 and Section 8, and in addition to saying how sick the guy was, and he gave it to him because he showed him his card and he thought he had whatever, he said the marijuana that was in the vehicle that he pulled me over for was for my personal use. This is how much it was. This is how frequently I use it. This is what I need it for. And, of course, the jurist out there, whatever, said no to everything. It was denied. And I don't want to exasperate this by.
Are we going to be reenacting this sometime in the future? Good, we will.
At some point we will, because I will never experience what. Okay, so. But
all right,
the
we're going to
point
assign
is this.
roles.
Let me put it in simple terms. I had
We're
I
gonna
had
need
a
the bailiff.
really, not only me and my client had a really, really miserable experience in this courtroom.
Were there
okay?
formal complaints?
I'm sure we'll portray it with a great emotion.
At some
and
point later on,
gusto.
and
Yes,
I've been
much gusto
telling
when
my
we
client
reenact
that I'm sorry.
the
I know we
transcripts.
keep losing, but I'm right.
Have
I
you
can't.
gone after him?
You know what I mean?
Are you trying to? Have you gone after this judge yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all part of it, but I
Have
don't
you
wanna-
thrown shit at him?
So I keep saying, you understand, like,
I feel another disbarred judge in our future.
Oh, it could.
This one. This is a male or a female? It's not a
Ah!
lady. Oh, it's not. It's another
So-
another lady judge.
So
she
He doesn't want to be too specific right now, but at some point we will be discussing this with names.
I like
point
this
is
guy.
that
He's just barring people. I like that.
Single
Yeah, Judge Brennan.
Man.
What?
I bet you.
We reenacted the entire transcripts of the trial. It was
we
pretty
did a-
good.
we did
It
a-
was
Alan did not
I'm gonna have to go
appreciate
back
it.
and watch that.
It was pretty hilarious.
Oh yeah.
It was Judge. You know,
Go
you know that there's they're doing a
Lisa
play.
Brennan.
They're doing a play.
We did a play.
No, I know
it
that.
was
I'm
like
saying
the
they should be
passion
calling
play.
us.
We
I could
did
write
it.
I could write the whole script. All right.
It was
So listen,
hilarious.
So you have to understand. So I file a bunch of motions, and the judge just doesn't even understand. I'm telling her she's wrong. I'm telling her a lot of things. she's
Did she
not-
tell you to put your phone away?
She-
Did she say, "Get off your phone, Mr. Komorn, now"?
As I said,
Did the bailiff have to come in and save your ass?
no, I'd heard from the grapevine. I can't verify this. That they thought, they being the team of everybody, whoever they is, against me and my client, that I wanted them to find me in contempt of court. So they let me get away with whatever.
Because why would you want that?
I can't even imagine.
So
I can't
you could
even
be
imagine.
in some little jail
No, so
cell
I
in
could use it again, because
Kalamazoo.
then I would draw attention to how terrible they are, or something like
That's
that.
Goldblum magic, man.
That's right.
Salute,
That's
bro.
right.
But so what it meant is they would not, no matter how far I pushed it, no matter how terrible I was, no matter how I would tell the court how wrong it was, but
That's
as I told my client, I was
nice.
keep ruling against me. And so as it goes, sometimes the Court of Appeals says that I'm right and she was wrong. So you had 3 counts. So I said, and we appealed a lot of issues. So we're in the middle of a case. Trial schedule coming up. We finished all these hearings. I don't know.
Were you sent
July.
home? Is everybody sent home because you all reeked? Or that was a
No,
totally
totally
different
different
trial?
case, totally different case, totally different. That was pretty outrageous,
Alan
too.
wasn't there.
That was
then.
pretty. We're gonna do that one too. The judge said that Michael's odor was making her ill.
Do you want to hear? Want to hear how? I can't even tell you how.
I like this guy. You're gonna have to come on
It
our
wasn't my
show.
odor. It wasn't my odor. It was my client said, like, yeah.
Well, I thought it was
totally.
collectively that everybody
Well,
was
either way,
screaming
either way.
in the courtroom.
The fact that she had to leave the courtroom was
She
a
had to leave
reason.
the
Yeah, so
courtroom.
we got to recuse from the case. There's no reason she should. So here you go. So we appeal a number of different issues, but remember the delivery to the allegation delivery to the uncle is count 1. Count 2 is the possession when they have to deliver out of the car, and count 3 is the other possession of the other material, which our client was legal. So, pursuant to this particular statute that we, the court used, because always we filed our appeal. We lost all these motions. We cited a number of different issues. Please review this, and it's interlocutory. It's not after the case is over. It's we got a trial date scheduled. We lost our motion. We're trying to get to the Court of Appeals before we get to trial. Very difficult to do. They don't give a crap about defendants. If a prosecutor gets a case thrown out, their case is over. They don't have a right to trial. If the defendant loses a search warrant issue and they want to appeal, they say, too bad, you got a trial. If you go to trial and lose and get convicted, then we have to take your case. See what I'm saying? So to get them to look at any issue prior to trial and a conviction, really, because that's the only way they're going to, is very difficult to do. So they say here.
You gotta hire Komorn Law.
This is
No.
all weed? Everything he had was weed, right?
The court vacates the July 5th, 2019 order of the Allegan Circuit Court, which denied defendant's motion for Section 8 affirmative defense. With regard to charges memorialized in counts 2 and 3 of the felony information, defendant presented sufficient evidence to create a question for the jury with regard to whether the amount of marijuana and the synthetic equivalent of marijuana seized from the trunk of the defendant's vehicle was reasonably necessary to ensure the uninterrupted availability of marijuana for the purposes of treating or alleviating the patient's serious or debilitating medical condition or symptoms of the patient's debilitating blah, 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 blah. And they settle the cases that we, so this is how it's supposed to be. The court, what the court had done there was like, my client testified, yeah, the marijuana in the trunk I needed for my medical purpose. She said, well, I don't believe you, which is not allowed. It's not allowed. It's just not allowed. Like if you're the juror, you can say that because that's your job to determine facts, whether you believe someone or not. It's not for the judge, and this is questions whether or not we presented enough evidence to get the defense.
Right.
Is how the law reads. And here you go, as the Court of Appeals says, the trial court erred in resolving the jury question. This matter is remanded to the trial court for entry of an order granting defendant's motion as to counts 2, possession intent to deliver, and count 3, possession of marijuana equivalents, synthetic equivalents only. Okay. The court further orders that the application for leave to appeal is granted in part limited to the issue of whether the trial court erroneously denied the section 4, which would be immunity, as to counts 2 and count 3. As I said, our position was there was...
It was all legal. He was covered.
He was in his split.
Mhm.
In all other regards, the court orders that the application for leave to appeal is denied for failure to persuade the court of the need for immediate appellate review. And that's the standard that you have to get over. So they didn't want to hear the other stuff that I raised, which I thought was important. But they say that it fails to tickle their fancy, so to speak, or fails to persuade the court of the need for immediate
You know what I want to
review.
know? Was the weed good? Was it even worth the trouble, man?
So here's what's interesting. There's 3 justices here in
Was
the.
being used as
That's a good question.
consistent medicine
That is
for
a
somebody,
that
so
is
it's
a
a
medical
Oof,
Monday
I'd be pissed. Like,
query
damn, this
that
is
we
some
need to follow up
fucking
on.
swag. And that would be horrible.
It could be. It could not even be. All right. So here goes. So 3 judges on the bench. One is Shapiro. The other is Beckery, and the other is Markey.
Mark.
So there is 2 paragraphs, there's 2 different footnotes. Shapiro and Beckery dissenting in part. They say, we would preemptively reverse the decision of the trial court to deny Section 4 immunity. So if they had it their way, 2 of the 3 judges would have said, you're wrong, Judge, not only about Section 8, but about Section 4 also. We would preemptively reverse the decision of the trial court to deny Section 4 immunity as to Sections 2
So they
and
have to have 3? 2 out of 3 is not enough?
because the number 3 says, I would deny leave on the issue whether the trial court erroneously denied Section 4, meaning he wouldn't even hear it. But I got 2 out of 3. So we're going to have an oral argument of the 3. I need 2 of the 3. They've already kind of stated their position.
So then you win.
I mean, I know who I got to try to persuade. And then I'm trying the case on the no affirmative defense, theoretically, on the delivery and the thing, because they're not going to. But in my mind, it is.
So 2 out of 3 means 2 judges agreed with the original decision, and in a case of a tie, the House wins.
Well, it's weird because 2 of the 3 agreed that the stuff in the car should have resulted in dismissal and disagree with the judge denying it.
They agreed with him.
And the 3rd judge said, I wouldn't even take this issue. Screw him. So those are footnotes. And they are going to schedule an oral argument for me to go argue to the 3 of them. That's my take on what is left to happen. What's interesting is if I went on Section 4 and counts 2 and 3 are dismissed and there's 1 count remaining, which deals with the delivery, theoretically, they're going to say that there's no medical, I get no medical defense for that. Whereas if 2 and 3 stay in during the trial in full, I'll be able to argue medical marijuana. It's not like they can, the jury will be instructed, for count 2 and 3, it's medical. For count 1, it's not. Like they got to.
Now, can I ask, is there any jail time associated with this? Like not after sentencing. I'm saying like now.
Well, that's a good point because all of these motions that occur, all these cases that are still occurring, or were even charged after the passage of MRTMA, you would argue and say, wait a second, they legalized it, right? Some of the arguments go that it's not retroactive. Some say that it doesn't matter because some of the behavior is not specifically articulated. The behavior is outside of MRTMA's allowed things, allowed behavior, but it doesn't have a specific penalty if you go outside of it. Therefore, you default to the public health code. This is a philosophy that's been.
Yeah, man.
Anyways,
let me give you some legal advice. Just plead guilty and then get him an expungement. It's over. Forget about it.
there's no expungements about it.
No, I'm kidding. I'm
I know.
kidding.
And
I was oversimplifying
and
it.
I would say to you, in taking your sarcasm to the level of the, that a lot of prosecutors don't even understand the sarcasm that you're pointing out. I had a guy say to me, "Well, your client's got to take a felony." I said, "Felony? They're talking about expunging these in the legislature," and he goes, "I don't care." So. If you don't care, then I'm not fucking talking to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Good point. Good point. Yeah.
I mean, like they just so this is so the point I want to make is that we have a motion that we filed in those marijuana cases. It's got 20,000 reasons why the case can't be felonized anymore. That if the person's convicted of the particular crime, at best they could be sentenced to civil infraction. Right. It also argues in some cases that the any charges involving a felony firearm, which is a felony underlying felony being convicted while using a firearm, cannot be anymore because the underlying previous felony behavior is now civil infraction. You can't felonize a firearm from a civil infraction. It's got to be,
Right.
And on and on and on. Now and there's a period. I'm going to go on a little bit longer. You can't cut me off. So.
Yeah, they just had this whole thing in Illinois about that.
And they are way, way ahead, and I'm ignoring that, way ahead of the game because they already taken steps to remove some of the expungements. Michigan went through this with the mandatory minimum on the
Jim is subtly asking Michael to wrap up.
No.
Michael is determined to get some
He
more.
keeps saying no. He keeps saying no. He's ignoring the direction over here.
2 final points. You may like this.
You said final point like 20 minutes ago.
Well, I didn't see the thing. So listen,
now you've seen it.
You know,
I
think you might have to come on Medical Mondays and continue this conversation. You're more than welcome.
You asked a good question. He asked a question, and I don't just say blah blah.
Well, that could be like your cliffhanger that you can continue on their show on Monday.
I'm sourcing my answer.
Well, we're already booked for Monday, but
Well,
we
I
can
mean,
fit him
for
in.
a Monday.
You can't be there
We
on
got
Monday,
him.
Michael. Sorry.
You're going to need an escort.
We got
to
him.
Russell.
Oh.
You're protected, man. Medical Mondays is a
You're
family.
good.
We got you.
We got you. You're good.
Next topic is the federal. No, I'm kidding.
Next topic.
It's funny. I'm joking. Is it funny?
Yeah.
You guys just don't get Mike, man.
Oh, we get him.
Oh, we get him.
We get him.
Leave this with a
believe me, we get him.
cliffhanger and pick up next show.
It's a cliffhanger, Michael. We'll get you next show.
Or maybe not. I mean,
All right. Can you do it in like a minute?
I mean, it's over. I'm done.
Oh, good.
Working
Good.
for my
problem solved.
whatever momentum I had going.
No problem.
Yeah.
Good.
Tune into
Kevin?
Medical Mondays
Medical
on
Mondays?
YouTube.
What time?
Medical
10
Mondays,
10 to
12,
midnight.
10 to 12?
Well, you can watch all our shows. They're all on there, but we go live
Michael,
10 to
do you,
midnight.
do you do shows that late at night?
I'll do shout
Do you
to
stay
Alan
up that
Peisler.
late?
Alan Peisler, my friend's Alan is listening. Did
Yeah.
he call in or try to add any sense to
He
the...
was-
Jim ignored
he was
him.
concerned about
Jim
the
ignored him. He
music,
sent us, he
discussion.
didn't like the music discussion. Dave did not like the music discussion either.
Did you, Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, because he felt like I
don't
wasn't
think the
probably-
in-house guests
What I mean,
appreciate
No,
the
Dave and I have had this argument before.
Dave likes
It
Paul
made me
McCartney.
Yes, he
feel
does.
real
Okay.
uncomfortable.
And he likes the other ones I hate too.
I felt real
So we've definitely
uncomfortable.
had this discussion.
That was a mistake.
I feel
mean,
nothing
it's-
but empathy for Dave right now.
It's
I
good
don't know why. It's
music.
like
I
my
just
heart's
don't like the
bleeding.
cultural norms that it
They were like
enforces.
twins.
Awkward. Thought this was a weed show.
Yeah.
Because we're not smoking weed. That's the problem.
Dewey and
Everybody's
Pam are
uptight.
also
We need to
say hi.
smoke.
Who else? Shh. A couple other shout-outs to...
Well, what about the Federalist and Federalist
Yeah, where's he?
Jr.? Both of them.
C. Murder.
Colin.
C. Murder.
See murder.
They call Colin C. Murder.
See murder.
Because of his...
Well, the
C.
way he
Murder.
defended the
Well, he was a
dispensary
hero
from
at
the
the
robbers.
Bloom and
and,
Bravado and
yeah.
machismo, of course.
He made.
That's why he
he
plays
made
the bailiff
robber
in our
produce
reenactments.
A patient card. He said whether you steal
Yes.
it or you purchase it, you
You
still
ain't
have
got
that.
no
Show
card.
your damn
Yeah,
card.
No card, no
Yeah.
transfer.
You held it up to the light to make sure it was real.
That's funny. That's really funny with that.
I don't see no watermark, bitch.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, they were lucky.
Yeah,
were.
they were lucky though.
You don't fuck
Because
with
if
the
he'd have been
Federalists.
aware,
They've
he'd
all
have
been
kicked some
caught,
ass.
They're all,
Yeah.
I know at least one of them's having a jury trial or just recently did or something like that. So
Ooh.
Did Colin testify?
All of them got arrested.
don't know. I don't,
No,
haven't
he
heard
did
about
not have to
They've
because
all been arrested now.
they were arrested and they pled
Don't be
guilty.
accusing my boy of being a
didn't show
snitch,
the
man.
video. They didn't show the video of
See,
Colin.
murder
It
don't
says
talk
it
to the
all.
folks, man.
I just saw that they didn't have a car.
He's no
But I will
Takashi.
say, in all seriousness, the people who were working up front did have guns drawn on them, made to hit the ground. They were
People were laying on the floor.
Everybody
behind
was
the counter.
traumatized except for Colin.
Colin's like, I got this wood
Like
door
I'm trying to get this
He
sale.
says, I'm trying to sell some CBD over here. And that's what he was selling.
All right. Y'all can't disturb C Murder in the trap. He's trapping hard.
He knew if he kept to school, he'd get through the whole thing.
Come on, man. We got to give Mike his show back.
No, it's fine. I'm having the.
He's used to it.
Final thoughts, and let's wrap it up because we're clearly way over the time limit. Jamie, did we get enough out of you?
Yeah,
Did you say everything you wanted to say?
I feel satisfied. Yeah. Good show. Good
Did
show.
we
Thank you-
chase
thank you
Earl
very
out of
much.
here?
We did.
Earl felt complete, like he was in good hands,
He
and
was
he
satisfied, he
sauntered
went
off.
home.
He was in good shape.
I was gonna say, like, from radio show purposes, we should have our own like internal like Yelp rating system. Like you can
We rate
give
the
us-
guests after they leave.
That's it. Well, that's it. But I was saying, like, radio people can rate the other radio people, and I don't know.
It's not a competition for me.
No,
I
just
love it
in
all.
terms, or a. I didn't mean it in that sense. I meant more in the constructive critique of.
Constructive critique, is that what they
Some
call
people,
it now?
some people like that.
Yeah.
Some people like Paul McCartney.
I'm with it.
Yeah, some people don't. And some people don't like to be tore up by attorneys either.
Okay.
Even though they
It's a
are
curse. What do you want?
a dear friend.
Maybe you could actually like check out Medical Monday sometime.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. I'm going to
We're out
appear and hang out and.
Nice.
we
All right,
will,
man.
I'll be in the audience.
it'll be
Yeah,
on
I'm
Monday.
definitely
It'll be
coming
on
too.
a Monday. Is that okay?
Do I have to
Definitely
schedule
coming.
you with your secretary? How does
Yes,
this work?
It's got to be very much like I don't know.
All right, man.
I'll request Jamie and.
Boom.
We'll escort you.
My full group of friends
Well,
and
of course.
radio
Yeah.
personality.
We
That
did
I'm
that
going
before.
with.
These guys are quite accommodating.
Michael
It'd be
comes
great
with
to do
his
that again.
crew.
Yeah, my crew.
Yeah, it's like a package deal.
All right.
It's
You're more than- you're all more than
Michael
welcome.
and his
It's like they invite you over. Like I got to
What
bring
do
my
they
own.
call? What do they call like a whole bunch of little baby dragon little?
Do they have a
What do they
name?
have them? What do they call it?
name
Was it
for
like a?
baby
A
Is it
brood?
like a
Baby dragon.
pod.
a pod? So
Stay
it's
in the
Michael
pod,
and his
as I said to my
pod.
kids. Stay in the pod.
Michael and his pod will
Ooh.
appear.
Dolphins in the pod.
The podcast.
No, but orcas have a pod. They.
Okay. But so
They
you're not
swim
really
together,
sure.
stay
You're
within a
just making
certain-
this up because orcas and lizards have kind of like the same nose structure. You're just making this up.
It may not be true for pod for
Jamie,
dragons.
research it and let
Okay.
us know.
I have a pretty good idea. Well,
All right, did we learn anything today, Jim? Final thoughts. Hold on, should we take a minute to just notice how sharp and dapper Jim Powers looks today?
Yeah,
Very
I know.
corporate and
Recognize him.
kind of
I've never seen him look like this before.
cool.
Dapper.
COO.
It's kind of like Superman with the glasses on. Completely different when the glasses are taken off.
I know it is.
Next week we will be doing the
Wolf of Wall
Jim
Street.
Powers makeover.
Trying to
And,
stay under the radar.
Oh, he's the wolf.
Wolf of Wall Street up in here today, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
The wolf.
he looks at me with a very serious, kind of compelling look. It's
I
clearly.
feel safe with him around.
You do?
You should.
I feel compelled. When I look at him.
I compel you.
I
He's
feel
got
like
that
the
COO look.
but I feel like the operations of the organization are under control.
They are
for
totally.
sure.
The operations.
Even though
are
there's no
definitely-
tie on that.
Yeah.
There's no tie. We'll see.
After hours, casual.
Okay.
Can't work that hard and
Did you wear a tie?
wear a tie.
No.
No.
Okay.
I only wear ties to funerals.
That sounded like a threat.
No, it wasn't.
Really?
That's true.
Okay.
Which implies also at weddings.
Oh.
No, that's also true.
Did you see Frozen 2?
Zing.
I did.
Oh, Frozen 2, here we go again.
I did. I saw Frozen 2. Did you see?
Well, the people with young kids can talk.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Hold on, I did see a
See
beautiful day in the
Frozen 2.
neighborhood. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
What are we talking
This is the
about?
movie with Tom Hanks.
Right.
Okay, anyone else see that?
Oh, you're talking
Huh?
about you're talking about the one about
Ruin it.
Mr. Robinson?
Can we don't just say
Mr.
spoiler alert? We can
Robinson.
talk about it. Isn't that how it goes?
Whatever
Just
his
kidding.
name
Mr.
is.
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Mr.
Jim-
Robinson
Jim
is Eddie
Rogers.
Murphy, right? When
Did
he
you
does Saturday Night Live,
Hold
he's
on?
Mr.
This will
Robinson.
tell me a lot.
That I
One
wanna
question:
see. This I
Did
don't
you
wanna
like Mr. Rogers? Fred Rogers.
No.
Did I
Yeah,
watch?
Fred
If
Rogers.
I
Did you
watched
watch him and like it? Yes
I
or no?
never watched it.
I grew up
watched it and I liked
I
it.
grew up with Bozo the Clown and Milky the Clown
I like
and
Bozo.
Lamb Chop and Sherry Lewis.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Not so
that's
much
what I grew up
Milky,
with.
though.
It was black and white shit.
Captain Kangaroo.
And Milky
Captain
was on the
Kangaroo,
milk
Milky.
carton.
I was on Captain
And I
Twin
fucking
Pines,
I
the
hate
magic
that.
words
It's the
are
only
Twin
clown I
Pines.
hate. I can't
Ooh.
stand that clown.
Milky.
I
That's
definitely
weird.
spent a part of my
I hate that
childhood in
clown
the
like
land
you
of
hate
make
Paul
believe.
McCartney.
Yeah.
for sure.
I recommend you see the movie. It's,
But no, I mean,
you know, there's a documentary they did.
I saw
ago
that.
With the documentary.
Yeah.
So
I saw the fake one and the real one.
What
Well,
about Bozo?
No, there's a documentary they did a year ago, which is more about him and his life, I think.
Bozo, we're talking about.
No,
Who are we
Mr.
talking
Rogers.
about? Oh, Mr.
Are
Rogers.
you
I
talking
thought we were
about
talking about Bozo.
No, I was
the
talking about
fucking
Fred
clown.
Rogers.
Okay.
You know?
This movie, I don't want to ruin it, but it is not so much that. It's
It is
more
not
of
that.
the, you know, it's more like
The essence.
It is also
Tom
not.
Hanks,
It is not
I mean,
suitable for children, as
pretty
we found
boring.
out.
I took my kids.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sounds
What is he?
Was, I mean, I guess it was all right. It was just a much darker
It
subject
sounds
matter.
boring. and-
Well, have you guys heard the what is it?
It's not dark.
I want to
It's
see the
actually-
new Adam Sandler movie, Uncut Gems. Has
walk
anybody
away
seen that?
Inspired or
It's not a comedy.
depressed?
It's like a
No, I mean it was
like a
inspiring
drama?
at
They
the
say
end,
it's like
but
a
the very
Academy Award
beginning of the
type
movie
shit. I wanna see
was
it.
was very dark.
Well, like there was a myth that he was in the war and he killed an entire platoon to save a couple of his.
Mr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Is that in the documentary?
They address it, but there's actually like a fake documentary where they reenact this fake story, and it's like his platoon leader's name is Friday, and like all the characters from the show served in the military with him. It's kind of cool, even though it's fake as hell.
So you
But if you're a
enjoyed this
fan,
movie? Oh,
it's
you're the one
worth
that
it.
saw the movie. Or
You can
did
check it
Michael
out
see
on
it too?
YouTube.
You both saw
The
it.
same place you can find Medical Mondays.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good. You guys on your channel there?
Jamie went and saw
Yes.
Cats. How did you
Medical
like
Mondays
Cats, Jamie?
podcast.
No, but you've got like on the channel, like got the other like movies and stuff. That,
No, we got a couple links to other pages, but maybe we should add the Fred
Yeah, what was
Rogers
the story? If you
documentary.
like a thing, can you do that? Like if
Yeah.
I put up all the safari stuff that I watch on our channel, what's that? Can't do that, I guess. Right?
What safari stuff?
Whatever it is.
Safari.
What's out there?
The interwebs.
Oh, okay.
Tigers.
I get it.
So yeah.
All right, so
So I do want to revisit the Mr. Rogers movie. Maybe we'll talk about that.
okay.
Next
So
time.
next week, instead of discussing music, we'll discuss your
Fine,
pick
I
of
was
movies.
gonna say let's go over the Rolling Stones, but we can go.
Well,
with
we
Mr.
could do the
Rogers instead.
Stones,
You
we could
sure?
do that.
You
Yeah,
sure?
sure.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I know you like.
What about
You
Paul
just have
McCartney?
to tie it into cannabis, and then you can talk about whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we do. We have musicians on, but they have to have like more than 3 songs about weed.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
Mhm.
Criteria.
Yeah.
See,
It's a good threshold.
start
Standard
composing
now.
some songs, Michael.
I
We'll
mean,
let
I'll
you
Oh, we're
come
calling
out.
it. That's it.
4 other
All right.
Tommy, take it. End it. So
genres.
end it before it
End
gets any worse.
Nighty night.
Whoops! Did state lawmakers accidentally legalize marijuana in Ohio? Some top law enforcement officers say yes. Columbus City Attorney says the decision is based on complications after the state legalized hemp. On July 30th, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed Senate Bill 57 into law. It legalizes hemp in Ohio and changes the definition of marijuana to exclude hemp based on the amount of THC. Now we have to be able to distinguish the difference between hemp and marijuana, said Vice President of the Ohio Fraternal Order of Police. That is not possible for a human being to do. That has to be done through crime analysis. The executive director of the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association agrees. This bill de facto legalizes marijuana in Ohio, at least for the time being, said Louis Tobin. We raised this concern with legislators during debate of the bill. It's disappointing those concerns were rejected. Whoops. Anybody want to go to Cedar Point?
I was upper middle class, I had a yard of carpet grass. Worked backhoe 9 to 5 and paid my union dues. But the sheriff came one day and he took it all away. Left me without anything to lose. They forfeited my car, they found some sugar in a jar. Told me it was probably suspicion of a crime. The other day I saw it being driven by the law, and them boys in back was gonna do some time. Well, forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the deep East Texas task force blues. They took my minibar and then they seized my VCR. They could be misused to watch a nasty video. They took away my kitchen all the time. My wife was bitching that it wasn't nothing but oregano. They said my herbal tea might cause a sinful ecstasy. Told me it could only lead to doing something hard. They took my ass to jail. They took my wife, paid my bail. Took my double wide down to the county yard. Forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the Oakland County task force blues. Without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got them Oakland County task force blues. Nice.
Keep going. The shirt. Keep going. Keep going.
Respectful of my time, because they don't give me much time here. You can walk around the crowd a little bit and help for me.
up, though, this big Snoop Dogg when you're watching Hyped Up Live Sessions with my main man Tony Green. And that's right, tell him Big Snoop Dogg sent you. We looking for all that new talent in the Detroit area. Let's go, D.
Yeah, you know what time it is. All the way from the legendary Russell Industrial Center in the heart of Detroit City comes Hyped Up Live Sessions with your host, your boy T-Money Green. We've created a show to bring the very best talent from Detroit, from around the world, to you sitting on your couch. It's like a couch concert, baby, as you never experienced before. You could be the next artist to perform on a Hyped Up Live stage. I know Detroit, I know the music in Detroit, and I gotta do it. You know me, or if you don't know, check it out. From the Dramatics to George Clinton to Snoop Dogg. If I said I'm bringing you the very best, I'm bringing you the very best in entertainment. Hyped Up Live Sessions, the way we wish you would experience Detroit music. Couch concerts coming up.
Check this out, this your boy Warren G, and we going hard right now with the Hyped Up Live Session with my homeboy T. You better ask somebody. You don't know? No. Shut.
And now back to more Planet Green Trees